Good morning, hello, or as we say in Austria, Servus to everyone. My name is Cornelia Ertl, and on behalf of NEFI New Energy for Industry, I would like to welcome you here in Linz. Welcome to the second conference of the Innovation Network. You may applaud just to warm up a little bit. New processes, new efficiency, and innovations will be required. That became very, very clear when the first scientific conference took place as a hybrid event last year. Due to the great interest and the outstanding importance to transforming the industrial energy system, I have the pleasure to welcome you all again this year in person, and I'm very glad about that. We have quite a program ahead of us, so I suggest we get to work. Politics, research, and industry will discuss the social, political, and above all, the technological changes for climate-friendly industry. In the scientific sessions, concrete solutions and first findings from the 17 NEFI projects will be presented. And of course, you will also have numerous networking opportunities, including tonight. I hope to see you all there at the conference dinner, which will be taking place at the Ars Electronica Skyloft. As you might have noticed already, some parts of the conference will be held in English and some parts will be held in German. So whatever language you feel more comfortable with, feel free to choose. There's a simultaneous interpretation provided, so you can choose between German and English. Headphones will be provided in case you need them, and you will find the interpretation into German on channel 1 and the one into English on channel 2. And now, before we dive into this year's keynotes and presentations, I would like to invite the host to join me here on stage. So please welcome the NEFI Network Coordinator. He's also the Head of Center for Energy at AIT, Austrian Institute of Technology. Welcome, Wolfgang Hribernik.
Good morning here in Linz. Happy to be here together with you at the second NEFI conference. And as you already mentioned, it's actually the first one in face-to-face mode, so this is of additional pleasure to us. I'm Wolfgang Hribernik. I'm very proud to serve as network coordinator for the NEFI program. I'm affiliated with the Austrian Institute of Technology, and I'm happy to open this conference today. And I want to give you a short introduction of what's the idea behind NEFI is. So NEFI is a research and demonstration project out of the program Vorzeige-Region Energie of the Climate and Energy Fund. So it's funded by the Climate and Energy Fund, and it's also co-funded by the federal states of Styria and Upper Austria. So this gives quite some momentum into this initiative. And our main work is projects. So it's innovative research and demonstration projects. But whereas the projects are the engine of NEFI, the cluster steering committee of NEFI is the heart. And therefore it's for me a special pleasure to introduce also the members of the cluster steering committee. So it's me having the honor of chairing this board. Then we have Thomas Kienberger from University of Leoben. Thomas Kienberger is professor for energy network technology, and he's moreover within NEFI in the role of coordinating the so-called NEFI Lab, which is the central innovation activity within NEFI that puts together all the results into a greater picture. And we have also the chance to learn out of the results from this NEFI Lab activity today and tomorrow. Then we have Christiane Egger from the Oberösterreichischen Energiesparverband. the Upper Austrian Energy Agency. Thank you having us here in Linz, and together with Dorian Wessely from the Upper Austrian Business Agency. So thank you as local hosts here in Upper Austria, and last but not least, I want to thank a lot also Mr. Markus Achleitner, who is representing the host institutions here, and I'm very glad having you here. So again, what is NEFI all about? So our mission is nothing less than decarbonisation of the Austrian industry sector, and that's quite an ambitious target. So our goal is to develop both system solutions and technologies that enable us to decarbonize both the energy supply of the industrial energy sector, but also certain production and industry processes by means of energy efficiency, integration of renewables by new processes, and that all has to fit together on a global level. And our goals are, of course, the decarbonization of the energy systems, but we want to also to secure the Austrian industry location by means of putting green technologies that enable us to reach these goals on the international market. And this is also as important goal to be in a position also on a global economy to secure Austrian and European economy. So what do we expect from the following 2 days? So NEFI works along so-called fields of innovation on the technological side, on the system side. You can see them up on this slide here. And we will organize this day along this innovation field. So we will have scientific contributions and keynote presentations along these topics. And this will enable us to go into fruitful discussions for further activities. And by the way, also many thanks to the scientific committee of this conference, so the expert that volunteered in evaluating and giving feedback to the authors, and I'm pretty looking forward to this conference, having this also scientific discussions. So on a project level, to sum that up, NEFI is around 24 projects right now. 7 of them are new out of the last call. And together with this, or along with these new projects, we have also new technologies, new system solutions that we are heading for example, utilization of CO2, introduction of hydrogen-based technologies, DC technologies, and more of them. So we will learn during these 2 days of conference about this new solution and how they fit to a bigger picture. So I think that was all from my side. So again, the program, we will have the first day with these scientific talks or discussions along the fields of innovation, and tomorrow we will have NEFI technology talks dedicated to different aspects. So one is utilization of geothermal and waste heat for industrial processes, and the other one is related to electrification of industrial processes. So key aspects that go along with our mission. And yeah, that's all from my side.
Thank you very much for your opening words. But if I may ask you to stay with me just a little bit longer, because now that you're on stage with me, I would like to take the chance and ask you at least one question, just to warm up a bit. There will be a lot to do for the next 2 days and in the future in general. So what are the most important building blocks on the way to a climate neutral industry? What's your point of view? What technological solutions and innovations do you think are necessary?
I mean, they are on the table and you can see it. No, you can't see it anymore on the slide. So I think we chose the right building blocks within NEFI to go along on a technological level and on a system level in order to reach that goal. But I mean, we are here in a intersection of research and implementation issues. So as I always try to say, it's research in real-time mode. And I think what is needed when going for decarbonized industrial economy, it's all about long-term investments. And long-term investments, so both on the energy policy side and the innovation policy side, they need a stable and strong commitment. So, and talking on the energy policy side, strong commitment means stable environments for investors that are necessary in building up new infrastructure, new technologies, and more than a regional or national level in setting up the policies. So we need to see the whole picture, the European picture, the global picture in energy policy. And the same is true for research policy. Also here, this is an investment in the future, yeah? And in a situation where we have almost an additional annual budget spending for fighting current crises, I think it's more than natural, or would be more than natural, in also have additional spending in R&D and scientific measures. Yeah, having the university now turning and flipping their coins in order to fight increased costs. I think that's not a stable foundation for our future challenges. So it's the whole story.
Thank you very much. And summing up, I think I speak for the both of us if I say I'm very much looking forward to a very inspiring and hopefully productive conference. Thank you very much, Wolfgang Hribernik.
Thank you.
I will now switch into a German part of the conference. Wir machen jetzt auf Deutsch weiter. Der Herr Hribernik hat es schon kurz eingeleitet. Das Land Oberösterreich gehört mit zu den wichtigsten Unterstützern des NEFI Lab und deshalb freuen wir uns natürlich ganz besonders, dass er heute hier ist. Ich darf ihn jetzt ganz herzlich begrüßen. Er ist Wirtschafts- und Energielandesrat in Oberösterreich und ich sage ganz herzlich willkommen, Landesrat Markus Achleitner. Herzlich willkommen.
Ja, meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren, ich darf Sie herzlich in Oberösterreich begrüßen und freue mich, dass die NEFI-Konferenz hier stattfindet, denn Oberösterreich und Steiermark, die beiden Industriebundesländer dieser Republik, wo sonst als hier muss die Transformation stattfinden. Und es wurde angesprochen, wir haben ordentliche Aufgaben vor uns und ich glaube, wir müssen unterscheiden zwischen sehr kurzfristigen Aktivitäten, die wir brauchen, und den strategischen Dingen, mit denen Sie sich beschäftigen, mit der Transformation. Ich komme gerade von einer dreitägigen Delegation aus Hamburg. Hamburg ein wichtiger Wirtschaftsfaktor auch für Oberösterreich aufgrund des Hafens, unser Exportcenter, aber mit dem Kollegen, dem Wirtschaftssenator, beisammen. Und kurzfristig haben wir wirklich zu tun, dass wir die Industrie und die Wirtschaft quasi durch den nächsten Winter bringen und die Wettbewerbsfähigkeit erhalten. Und das ist viel dramatischer, als da draußen die Menschen das derzeit noch mitbekommen. Wir haben leider keine europäische gemeinsame Vorgangsweise. Gestern wurde wieder mal beschlossen, ich glaube zum 5. Mal, dass wir Gas gemeinsam einkaufen werden. Alleine wir tun es nicht. Es sind keine Aktivitäten gesetzt worden auf europäischer Ebene, dass die Preissituation in den Griff bekommen wird. Das brauchen wir dringendst. Nachdem Europa hier zu keiner Einigung scheinbar kommt, gibt es jetzt die einzelnen Staaten, die beginnen, gestern das deutsche Modell vorgestellt bekommen. Wenn das kommt, dann müssen die anderen Staaten nachziehen. Tschechien, Niederlande ist ebenfalls fast fertig. Österreich arbeitet daran. Es wird nicht anders gehen, weil die Wirtschafts- und die Wettbewerbsfähigkeit ansonsten flöten geht. Und in Deutschland ist es jetzt schon so, die Produktionen sind eingeschränkt, manche Betriebe stehen und das ist auch der Grund, warum Gas gespart wird. Also wenn jetzt oft einmal jemand sagt, es ist so gut, der Gasverbrauch geht zurück, dann geht das auf Kosten der Wirtschaft und der Wirtschaftsleistung. Das kann in Wahrheit keine Lösung sein. Also wir haben hier ordentlich etwas zu tun, was die Kurzfristigkeit betrifft, nämlich dass wir Preise stabilisieren und dann natürlich alles diversifizieren, ersetzen und so weiter, all die Dinge, die Sie ja behandeln und entsprechend auch erforschen. Ich habe NEFI gestern auch in Hamburg vorgestellt, sehr stolz vorgestellt, da sind wir wirklich, das möchte ich Ihnen auch wirklich sagen. Daher ist Steiermark und Oberösterreich ja große Unterstützer. Sie haben die Zahlen ja genannt, 30 Millionen, ein 8-jähriges Projekt, auch das wichtig, weil genauso wie für die Forschung Stabilität der Konditionen wichtig ist, so ist es letztlich auch in der Wirtschaft. Sie haben es angesprochen, Herr Hribernik, es geht schon darum, dass wir bei den ganzen Investitionen uns verlassen müssen, dass die nächsten 20, 30 Jahre die Konditionen so bleiben. Denn wenn der Krieg hoffentlich früher als später aus ist, wird auch wieder Gas fließen. Das muss man ja realistisch sehen. Und wir werden ordentlich brauchen, bis wir in Sachen Wasserstoff und so weiter so weit sind, dass wir große Mengen ersetzen können. Und wir werden auch weiterhin importieren müssen. Und da ist es auch, da sind wir uns auch sehr einig, dass wir aufpassen müssen, von einer Abhängigkeit nicht in eine nächste Abhängigkeit zu kommen. Und was derzeit geopolitisch passiert, ist ja schizophren und skurril und hat nur ein Problem, dass Europa der große Loser ist, dieser Situation derzeit. Alle anderen haben positive Auswirkungen dieses Wahnsinns, Europa nicht. Und wir müssen wahnsinnig aufpassen, weil wenn wir nur ein halbes, dreiviertel Jahr so weiter tun, dann wird es zu einer Deindustrialisierung Europas und damit auch Österreichs kommen, weil die Investments dort getätigt werden, wo die Bedingungen besser sind. Wenn in Amerika die Energie derzeit ein Siebtel kostet von uns, dann brauche ich Ihnen nicht sagen, wie große Konzerne auch aus Oberösterreich bei mir am Tisch sitzen und sagen, wo sollen wir jetzt investieren. Daher, kurzfristig müssen wir politisch was zusammenbringen, mittelfristig müssen wir die Dekarbonisierung zustande bringen und der Weg, die Frage des Ob ist ja, glaube ich, geklärt. Die Frage des Ob ist seit 2, 3 Jahren auch den größten Kritikern jetzt klar. Ob ist nicht die Frage, wie, da streiten wir massiv. Und am Weg dorthin müssen wir die Wettbewerbsfähigkeit erhalten. Denn wenn andere, unsere Betriebe, gerade in Oberösterreich, gilt für die Steiermark genauso, sind weltweit tätig, stehen im internationalen Wettbewerb. Und wenn wir teurer produzieren aufgrund der Transformation, dann müssen wir irgendwie abfedern, dass die nicht so teuer produzieren, weil sie weniger Auflagen haben, dass die auf demselben Levelfield anbieten wie wir. Wir denken auf europäischer Ebene da an Cross-Border-Taxes, was eine gewisse Zeit zumindest der Versuch ist, seine Level herzustellen. Aber letztlich wird das eine große Challenge sein. Ich bin nicht ganz sicher, ob das allen politischen Akteuren immer so klar ist, dass wir international im Wettbewerb stehen. Und wir haben bei den Diskussionen ordentlich zu tun, auf gemeinsame Nenner zu kommen. Ich darf das sagen, weil ich selber beim Bundesregierungsprogramm den Energiebereich mitverhandelt habe und ich nach Ihrer Veranstaltung den Oberösterreichischen Energiespartag, der findet heute statt, Oberösterreich mit dem Landesstudio Oberösterreich, mit dem Energiesparverband, dankenswerterweise thematisieren wir alles das, was die Bürger tun können. Und dann bin ich am Weg nach Leoben, weil wir intensive Landesenergiereferentenkonferenz in Leoben haben, heute und morgen, wo es genau um diese Dinge geht, auch um die Verlässlichkeit und um den Weg dieser Umstellung. Ich möchte mich bei Ihnen allen sehr bedanken für dieses NEFI-Projekt. Das zeigt den Weg, wohin es gehen soll. Bitte sind Sie gnadenlos, auch die Auswirkungen aufzuzeigen, nämlich in jeder Richtung. Nicht nur die Ziele darzustellen und die Prozentsätze und die Konzepte, die sind alle wichtig, sondern auch, wie viel Zeit werden die einzelnen Prozesse brauchen, um dann nämlich in Wirkung zu kommen in der Wirtschaft. Was ist an Begleitmaßnahmen notwendig, seitens auch der Politik? Das möchte ich ganz klar sagen. Adressieren Sie unverhohlen und ungeschützt das, was es ist, weil politische Traumdiskussionen führen wir ohnehin mehr als genug. Also daher brauchen wir da die Kompetenz, die uns sagt, wie auf diesem Weg hin wir eben Dinge wie Wettbewerbsfähigkeit und auch Quantitäten. Ich habe immer wieder Diskussionen, dass diskutiert wird, dass wir das Energiesystem umstellen können und Österreich oder Europa selber die gesamte Energie wird erzeugen können, künftig erneuerbar. Und ich glaube, es wird nicht viele geben, die das darstellen können. Das wird sich nicht ganz ausgehen. Das heißt, wir werden importieren müssen und da bräuchten wir eine europäische Entscheidung. Ich war vor 2 Wochen in Mailand mit der Firma SNEM beisammen, einer der größten Leitungsbetreiber, die heuer noch, haben sie mir gesagt, heuer noch die Zertifikate bekommen werden, dass die Gasleitungen auch fähig sind für Wasserstoffleitung und dass ihre Speicher auch fähig sind für Einspeicher von Wasserstoff. Und inzwischen begrüßen wir herzlich die Frau Sektionschefin Spyra. Herzlich willkommen in Oberösterreich. Es macht nichts, wenn Wien länger braucht, Hauptsache Wien hat Geld mit. Das haben Sie nicht gehört, das ist meistens so in Wien. Nein, ich habe Sie mit einem Scherz willkommen geheißen. Es macht nichts, wenn Wien länger braucht, aber es ist wichtig, wenn Wien Geld mit hat. Und das haben Sie ja in der Tat auch mit. Daher ist das sehr, sehr gut. Ich wünsche Ihnen für heute und morgen viele inspirierende Gespräche. Setzen Sie sich hart auseinander mit den Realitäten. setzen Sie sich hart auseinander mit den möglichen Szenarien und sagen Sie uns dann, was Sie auch knallhart von der Politik brauchen an Rahmenbedingungen, damit wir das auch in Wirkung bringen. Das wünsche ich Ihnen, das wünsche ich uns auch. Glauben Sie mir, die nächsten 2 Tage werden auch für die Energiereferenten Österreichs mit der Frau Bundesministerin sehr, sehr interessant. In diesem Sinn, viel Spaß und alles Gute bei Ihrer NEFI-Konferenz.
Vielen herzlichen Dank, lieber Herr Landesrat. Ich möchte natürlich auch da die Gelegenheit noch ganz gerne nutzen, wenn wir Sie schon mit dabei haben und ich Sie hier bei mir auf der Bühne begrüßen darf, Ihnen noch eine Frage zu stellen. Und zwar würde ich ganz gerne nochmal den Fokus auf das Land Oberösterreich richten. Wie sieht denn die Situation bei den oberösterreichischen Betrieben aus? Wir haben ein Handmikrofon auch vorbereitet. Genau. Sie haben da Großbetriebe, Sie haben auch KMUs im industriellen Sektor. Sie haben gesagt, das Wie ist natürlich die große Frage. Wie sind denn aus Ihrer Sicht die Möglichkeiten da, an dieser Dekarbonisierung auch tatsächlich teilzunehmen, für die Kleinen wie für die Großen? Das müsste funktionieren.
Strombereich, wenn Sie hinten einschätzen, im Strombereich machen alle das, was möglich ist. Ich sage jetzt einmal, es wird eingespart ohne Ende, es wird Effizienz gesteigert, wir haben einen PV-Boom in Oberösterreich wie noch nie. Ich bin 2018 in die Regierung gekommen, da haben wir im Jahr 2018 3.814 Anträge für eine Einspeisung einer Photovoltaikanlage gehabt. Heuer werden das fast 60.000 werden, nur in einem Jahr. Wir haben insgesamt erst 60.000 PV-Anlagen in Oberösterreich und heuer alleine dieselbe Zahl noch einmal. Also das funktioniert, das rechnet sich jetzt auch und das boomt. Da haben wir ein paar Dinge, die wir auch besprechen werden, wie Förderabwicklung und so weiter, aber das werden wir hinbringen. Die Föst beispielsweise ist dabei, ab 2027 bei 2 Öfen, die nicht mehr mit Kohle, sondern mit elektrischem Strom Stahlerzeugung zu machen. Was braucht es dafür? Netzausbau. Wir brauchen für diese Leitung eine 220 kV-Leitung, obwohl alle wollen, obwohl politisch alle einig sind, egal welcher Farbe, 6 Jahre, um die Genehmigung für diese Leitung zu erlangen. Die, nur dazu, eine 220 kV-Leitung zu 85% auf einer bestehenden 110 kV-Leitung sitzt. Und trotzdem brauchen wir 6 Jahre. Also wenn da jemand noch sagt, die Verfahren sind kurz genug, dann verstehe ich die Welt nicht, das muss man sagen, aber das ist am Weg. Das heißt, die Industrie ist anpassungsfähig, wenn sie die Konditionen weiß und die Rahmenbedingungen. Es ist schwierig, wenn sich das immer ändert und quasi man sich nicht verlassen kann. Wie es Energie geht, da bin ich Aufsichtsratschef, sind mitten in der Ausschreibung für ein Pumpspeicherkraftwerk, weil auch das ist eine der wichtigen Anforderungen, dass wir Interday quasi speichern können. Also es läuft sehr viel, NEFI läuft. Wir haben ein ganz großes Wasserstoffforschungsprojekt mit über 100 Millionen Euro Projektvolumen, wo die LOIs der Unternehmen da sind, wo wir intensiv und auch sehr gut zusammenarbeiten mittlerweile mit dem Bund, dass wir ein Förderregime bekommen, dass so etwas auch darstellbar wird, weil mit den bisherigen Kleingeschichten geht so etwas nicht. Da geht es darum, dass wir eine Wasserstoff-Demo-Anlage im industriellen Maßstab bauen möchten und eben versuchen, den Wasserstoff grün herzustellen und dann mit CO2 speicherfähig zu machen. Also ein großes Projekt, das gerade in Oberösterreich wichtig ist und wo wir hoffen, dass wir heuer noch so weit kommen, dass wir endlich das durchbringen. Auch das wollen alle, aber die Wege dorthin sind nicht so einfach.
Vielen herzlichen Dank für diesen spannenden Einblick in die Situation in Oberösterreich. Schön, dass Sie heute mit dabei sind. Großen Applaus für Landesrat Markus Achleitner. Und ich darf Sie einladen, noch ganz kurz zum Foto zu mir nach vorne zu kommen. Wir würden nämlich, Sie haben ja einen sehr vollen Terminkalender, Herr Hribernik, Frau Spyra, Herr Landesrat, Frau Egger, vielleicht möchten Sie auch noch dazu kommen. Und wir werden dann noch ein kurzes Gruppenfoto machen, bevor wir dann gleich mit dem nächsten Beitrag weitermachen. Zuerst zur linken Seite, genau, damit wir das koordiniert haben. Dann einmal in die Mitte. Ja. Hat sie auch gesagt, ja. Wunderbar, vielen herzlichen Dank nochmals und einen Applaus auch für den Herrn Landesrat. Liebe Frau Spyra, Sie dürfen natürlich gerne gleich da bleiben. I will switch back into English for the next part. Climate neutrality by 2040. That's quite a goal. What challenges does this mean for the industrial sector, and what contribution can and also must research and development make? I'm very much looking forward to welcome the next guest here on stage. She's head of Section 3 Innovation and Technology at the Federal Ministry for Climate Protection, Energy, Mobility, Innovation and Technology. Please welcome Henriette Spyra.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Ms. Etta. I think you missed environment there. But this ministry used to be called Transport, Innovation and Technology, and I'm glad it isn't anymore, because usually then you had to hear about, all the railway failures, and today would have been a good day to hear about the railway failures. Mr. Achleitner already mentioned that indeed it is a pleasure to come today to Upper Austria, because it is a big week for the issue we are talking about industrial decarbonisation. You know that 2 days ago, the government presented a huge new transformation initiative specifically focused on industry. Climate neutrality 2040 is still our goal, and we're still taking it very seriously. And the huge challenge, and I'm sure Mr. Achleitner mentioned it, is how we decarbonize industry without deindustrializing. That's a huge, huge challenge, and we're taking it very, very seriously. Industry is really a central lever for achieving the climate neutrality targets we have, which is why in our own portfolio we're really looking at putting industry and putting production processes at the center of our portfolio, really feeding into the different focal areas we have. In industry, especially hard-to-abate sectors, which are very prominent in Upper Austria, cement, steel, chemicals, we know that ready-made technologies and solutions are not yet available, which is why research, development, and innovation is still so very important. This is due to the fact that 60% of industry emissions are not caused by energy, but by process-related emissions, which is why we need approaches like circular economy, green hydrogen, which I'm sure was mentioned, and we even need to look at CCU technologies in the future. And since we don't have ready-made solutions, we still need to increase our efforts in RDA. It's a clear fact that we do have to keep innovating while keeping our industrial production running. Everything happening at the same time. There's a huge pressure on us to, go away from the linearity we used to focus on, doing a bit of research and then in 20 years maybe, deploying. Everything is happening at the same time, which is why it's hugely important to collaborate, not only the national level, the federal level, but also to collaborate in project consortia, as you're doing with NEFI, and you have been doing for a very long time. Thanks a lot, especially to AIT for keeping this big garden of interesting projects together. I'm trying to use floral words now, because Ms. Adler forgot the environment, so I do have to keep our biodiversity. So collaboration is key. Agility is key. And I really mean this in a true sense of the word, and it means agility for you as researchers, for you as companies, but also, as Mr. Achleitner mentioned, for us as a government. We also need to be more agile, and we also need to be more flexible and kind of bringing the different instruments together, which is actually a lot more about people than you'd think. I often say, when I'm asked, can we do this or that? I'm like, well, is it forbidden? No. If it's not forbidden, just do it. It's a really important thing. Just do it. And of course, as I said before, and I think this cannot be said often enough, research, development, demonstration, and rollout all at the same time, which is especially important for a strong industrial location like Upper Austria. What we, of course, do at a national level, speaking about collaboration, we also collaborate at an international level. I'm really happy that we officially launched the Net Zero Industry mission at the Clean Energy Ministerial in Pittsburgh. And whichever American is always mixing up Austria and Australia. And this mission, it doesn't matter, because Austria and Australia are co-leading this Net Zero Industry mission. And Elvira Lutter from the Climate and Energy Fund will tell you more about it later. With the flagship Energy Region initiative of the Climate and Energy Fund, we support ambitious companies in the energy transition. This mammoth task, it really is, and it has been a mammoth task, cannot be achieved alone. It really needs to be public and private together. And we've been showing that this works, but we need to be a lot faster. So far, and I'm getting to the money part, everyone is always interested in, but it's good to compare this. So far, we have invested 133 million euros of public money into all the flagship regions we have, 133 million into all 3 flagship regions. And a very important initiative, I'm really glad that we were able to negotiate, apart from the big chunks that were presented on Tuesday, the 5.7 billion package geared at decarbonizing industry. We also will launch our own our research, development, innovation initiative with a total budget of 270 million euros over the period to 2023 to 2026. And I may talk a little bit about it later. Well, for me, it remains to say thank you. Thanks a lot. More than 100 partners from industry and science dedicating your resources, dedicating also your money, because the public money is only kind of a leveraging a lot of private investments, and we're very thankful that we are working on this together. Thanks a lot for being on this journey with us for a very long time, and I think I should really say that NEFI and what you focus on, specifically the decarbonization of industry, is really at the heart of what we're doing in the future. So thanks a lot for all the work that's already happened, and we're looking forward to continue our work together.
Thank you very much. And I would also like to take the chance to ask you one more question. So first of all, my apologies for leaving out the environmental part.
It's okay.
You mentioned the flagship regions. The energy model regions are an important player in achieving the climate goals for Austria. So if I may ask, what advice would you personally give new projects like that? So what's most important to put focus on?
I mean, I think you know all the usual spin on, collaborating, working together, and all that. I think the most important advice, and actually not advice, because advice always sounds like I'm standing here and telling you what to do. I cannot. The most important thing I have to ask from you is really make sure that you put every single project in the bigger context of what we need to achieve. Make sure, and the flagship regions do this, that projects learn from each other, and that we can really be as quick as possible in taking the stuff, bringing the stuff to the market, and rolling out everything. That's, I think, the most important thing, which is why we really focus for the next big R&I initiative. Again, I said 270 million euros in the Climate and Energy Fund starting next year. We really focused on hard-to-abate sectors, because we really need to focus all our resources where we actually have the biggest lever towards making a difference. So learn and share, and also, I can repeat what you said before, really tell us where you need help and where we need to change things. We do all need to change a lot of things, I know, and it often takes longer than I'd like to, but it doesn't. Whatever, we do need to move, all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're glad to have you with us today. Henriette Spyra, thank you very much. I will now switch back into German. Wir machen mit dem nächsten Teil auf Deutsch weiter. Der Herr Landesrat ist noch hier bei uns aus Oberösterreich. Oberösterreich ein ganz, ganz wichtiger Partner des NEFI Lab, aber auch das Land Steiermark gehört zu den wichtigsten Unterstützern des NEFI Lab. Und deshalb darf natürlich heute auch entsprechend ein steirischer Beitrag nicht fehlen. Ich freue mich zunächst auf folgende Videobotschaft, die uns von der Landesrätin für Wirtschaft, Tourismus, Regionen, Wissenschaft und Forschung aus der Steiermark erreicht hat. Film ab, wir sehen jetzt Magistra Barbara Eibinger-Miedl. Bitte schön.
Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, geschätzte Teilnehmerinnen und Teilnehmer der NEFI-Konferenz. Die grüne Transformation ist zweifelsohne das Gebot der Stunde. Denn der Klimawandel ist mittlerweile spürbar angekommen. Und seit dem Ausbruch des Krieges in der Ukraine sind wir auch mit drohenden Versorgungsengpässen konfrontiert und erleben stark steigende Energiepreise. Wir sind daher auf allen Ebenen gefordert, die grüne Transformation unter Hochdruck voranzutreiben. Das gilt sowohl für die europäische Ebene als auch für die Bundes- und Landesebene wie auch für die Kommunalpolitik. Dieses Thema steht daher auch bei uns in der Steiermark und insbesondere in meinem Ressort ganz oben auf der Agenda. Denn so wie Oberösterreich ist auch die Steiermark ein starkes Industriebundesland und wir haben eine Vielzahl an energieintensiven Unternehmen, für die die grüne Transformation eine ganz besonders große Herausforderung darstellt. Für uns ist ein Schlüssel zur Bewältigung dieser Herausforderung Forschung und Entwicklung. Wir sind daher sehr froh, dass nicht nur zahlreiche Unternehmen, sondern insbesondere auch viele Forschungseinrichtungen in unserem Bundesland an den Fragen der grünen Transformation bereits sehr erfolgreich arbeiten. Unter dem Titel Green Tech Valley befinden sich 20 globale Technologieführer in unserem Bundesland. Und es gibt hier eine hervorragende Zusammenarbeit zwischen der Wissenschaft und der Wirtschaft, so wie dies auch im NEFI-Konsortium gelebt wird. Denn unser klares Ziel ist es, dass wir die grüne Transformation meistern, das heißt dem Klimawandel entgegentreten, gleichzeitig aber weiterhin eine wirtschaftliche Dynamik in unserem Land haben. Auch die NEFI-Konferenz wird hier ihren wichtigen Beitrag leisten. Und ich freue mich, dass die bundesländerübergreifende Zusammenarbeit damit einmal mehr gestärkt wird. Ich wünsche Ihnen einen guten Austausch, anregende Diskussionen und bedanke mich vor allem für Ihren wertvollen Beitrag.
Ja, und eine weitere Botschaft erreicht uns ebenfalls per Video aus der Steiermark, und zwar von der Landesrätin für Umwelt, Klimaschutz, Energie, Regionalentwicklung und Raumordnung, Magistra Ursula La. Bitte schön.
Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, auch ohne die Herausforderungen, vor die uns die aktuelle geopolitische Situation stellt, stehen wir mitten in einem ganz entscheidenden Jahrzehnt. Viele Jahre wurde die Aufgabe des Klimaschutzes und die Notwendigkeit, dem voranschreitenden Klimawandel etwas entgegenzusetzen, als Zukunftsherausforderung beschrieben. Und in dieser Zukunft sind wir längst angekommen. Das ist messbar und im Klimabericht dargestellt und für jeden und für jede auch deutlich wahrnehmbar. Es liegt an uns, die notwendigen Maßnahmen zu setzen, um die Steiermark, Österreich, Europa und unseren Planeten als solchen zu bewahren und lebenswert zu erhalten. Zentrale Maßnahmen des Klimaschutzes und in der aktuellen Energiekrise sind all jene, die die Energieeffizienz bzw. die Energieverbrauchsreduktion sowie die Transformation unseres Energiesystems adressieren. Es gilt, Abhängigkeiten von fossilen Energieträgern zu durchbrechen. Und hierfür haben wir in der Steiermark anhand unterschiedlicher Szenarien untersucht, welcher Weg für die Umstellung des Energiesystems in der Steiermark am geeignetsten ist. Die Steiermark ist nicht nur ein starkes Forschungsland. Die Steiermark hat auch als Industrieland eine lange, eine stolze Tradition. Und gerade die Industrie hat dabei typischerweise einen hohen Energiebedarf. Rund 40% des Energiebedarfs der Steiermark entfällt auf den produzierenden Bereich. Gleichzeitig ist sie aber auch ein wichtiger Motor für Beschäftigung, für Arbeitsplätze und Innovation. Deswegen ist es für uns umso wichtiger, dass wir die Energiewende gemeinsam mit vereinten Kräften meistern und unsere Energieunabhängigkeit in der Steiermark ausbauen. In einigen Sektoren und Betrieben wurden erfreulicherweise bereits aktiv Maßnahmen zum Energieträgerwechsel und zur Dekarbonisierung gesetzt. Das ist Beleg dafür, dass die steirische Industrie die Zeichen der Zeit erkannt hat. Sie setzt, und auch gerade vor dem Hintergrund der enormen Unsicherheiten infolge des Ukraine-Krieges, auf den stetigen erneuerbaren Ausbau in ihren Produktionsprozessen. Ja, das ist eine Mammutaufgabe. Aber wenn man sich in der Steiermark umsieht, gemeinsam bewegen wir uns in die richtige Richtung. Und das muss auch so sein. Denn die Energiewende ist zentral für den Klimaschutz und dafür, den Klimawandel einzubremsen. Dafür müssen wir sie aber auch als das begreifen, was sie ist. Eine Querschnittsmaterie. Eine Herausforderung, der wir uns gemeinsam auf allen Ebenen und in allen Bereichen stellen müssen. Von der Industrie über die Wirtschaft, die Politik bis hin zur Bevölkerung. Die Vernetzung ist ein Schlüsselelement für das Gelingen der Energiewende. Ich danke Ihnen, dass Sie an dieser Vernetzung mitwirken und so ein wichtiger Teil davon sind, den Industriestandort Steiermark zukunftsfit aufzustellen.
Ja, vielen herzlichen Dank an die beiden Landesrätinnen und ganz herzliche Grüße schicken wir hier zum Fenster raus von Linz aus in die Steiermark. Around a quarter of CO2 emissions worldwide come from industry. And that's why NEFI is not only of great importance for the domestic industry. So what's behind the mission Net Zero Industries and what role does Austria play in the global network? I'm very much looking forward to invite the next guest to join me here on stage. Please welcome the program manager at the Austrian Climate and Energy Fund, director of the Net Zero Industries Mission by Mission Innovation. Herzlich willkommen, Elvira Lutter.
Yes, thank you very much for the introduction and the invitation. A warm welcome to the NEFI conference this year. I'm very happy to see you in person and not only virtually. 3 weeks ago, I was in Pittsburgh at the Global Clean Energy Action Forum and the 7th Mission Innovation Ministerial. And maybe most of you will not know what Mission Innovation is. It was founded in Paris at the climate conference in 2015 by Barack Obama, Bill Gates and other world leaders with the aim to accelerate energy innovation by increasing public and private investment in these technologies and combat climate change and also to create new business opportunity. Austria is member since 2018 together with 21 other countries and the European Union. And 3 years ago, we started to develop the so-called Net Zero Industry Mission. And yes, it was not always very easy in, let's say, as a, working for the National Climate and Energy Fund, then to work with people in the international arena. But on Friday, 23rd September, finally, the mission was officially launched by Leonore Gewessler and her Australian colleague Chris Bowen in Pittsburgh. And now, let's say, we don't only have to work for it, we can also speak about this mission. And in addition to Australia, we could convince Canada, China, Germany, Finland, South Korea, the UK, as well as the European Union, and also international organizations like UNIDO. And I'm very happy that today a keynote will be held by Rana Gonheim from UNIDO, because we already cooperate with her and UNIDO for this mission. And the 9 member countries of the Net Zero Industry Mission, they are responsible for around 50% of all industrial emissions worldwide, and they invest also billions of euros and US dollars in all in energy research and development. And the aim of this mission is to accelerate research and innovation for the decarbonization of energy-intensive industry, meaning iron and steel, cement and lime, and the chemical industry are in focus. And we want to increase public and private investment and have international cooperation, that not every country is doing the same again, let's say same mistakes also. We want to learn from each other. For example, Germany now is investing 1 billion of euros in for Salzgitter, the steel plant. They received a notification from the European Commission, and we want to learn how to do this and let's say to repeat it in other countries as well, if possible, in Austria. And the specific objectives of the mission itself are by 2030 at least to have 50 large-scale demonstration plants, to further develop new technologies to TL 8 and 9, and to reduce the capex by 15% to enabling cheaper ways to decarbonize the industry. And why it is necessary? All of you know that around 50% of the technologies required to decarbonize the energy-intensive industry are not yet commercially available. So if we want to decarbonize them, we need to do research and innovation. Without it, we might have lock-in effects, and it will, let's say, not reach climate neutrality, and it will also be more expensive for the companies. And yes, we will not meet our climate targets. My personal vision is to decarbonize energy-intensive industry in Austria and globally with innovation made in Austria, because I'm working at the Climate and Energy Fund. And this, let's say, innovation from Austria should be thought like the Sacher cake worldwide. All know it, all want to have it. And the first contribution is the program Transformation der Wirtschaft. The first call will close on the 21st of October. The aim is, let's say, focus is on heavy industry, and in the first call is on renewable energy. And the second call will start at the beginning of next year. And in total, the program has 100 million euros. And now at the end, I would like to thank Henriette Spyra and Sabine Mitter and the Ministry of Climate Change for the trust that we can do this, and all the NEFI partners, because you inspired us for doing this mission, because more or less we want to have NEFI on an international scale. And now I wish you an interesting conference.
Thank you very much. I would also like to take the chance to ask you one more question, if that's possible. So which are the projects the mission Net Zero Industries puts special focus on?
Which, let's say, one focus is, of course, the use of hydrogen for industrial processes, then energy efficiency. We all know that the less energy we use, the easier it is to, let's say, to supply the rest of the energy with renewable energy. Is electrification, carbon capturing and usage, for sectors like cement, where they have no other possibilities because they have emission from the process and not energy related. And there's something else I don't remember. Of course, digitalization and flexibilization, and all the aspects regarding circular economy.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inspiring us for the Sacher cake. I can't think about anything else. We will see you in the coffee break afterwards. Okay. Thank you very much, Elvira Lutter. We will now start with the first keynote. Wir werden jetzt mit der ersten Keynote-Präsentation starten. Sie trägt den Titel Strategieoptionen für den Klimaschutz in der Industrie. An dieser Stelle möchte ich Sie auch darauf hinweisen, dass es im Anschluss an die Keynotes auch die Möglichkeit geben wird, Fragen zu stellen. Also in dem Fall sage ich dann Bescheid, wenn es losgeht, dann einfach die Hand heben und wir werden Ihnen ein Mikrofon zur Verfügung stellen und Sie können Ihre Frage stellen. Ja, ich freue mich jetzt auf den ersten Vortragenden. Er kommt aus Wuppertal vom Institut für Klima, Umwelt und Energie zu uns. Herzlich willkommen, Professor Dr. Ingenieur Manfred Fischerdick. Herzlich willkommen. Vielleicht, während Sie sich noch einrichten auf der Bühne, sage ich noch 2, 3 Sätze zu Ihrer Biografie. Er ist seit Januar 2020 wissenschaftlicher Geschäftsführer und seit 2010 Mitglied der Geschäftsführung des Wuppertal-Instituts für Klima, Umwelt und Energie. 2008 wurde er zum außerplanmäßigen Professor an der Bergischen Universität Wuppertal berufen. Er ist zudem einer der Leitautoren des 6. Sachstandsberichts des Weltklimarates. Das Wuppertal-Institut und Manfred Fischerdick verfolgen einen transformativen wissenschaftlichen Ansatz. Forschung dient nicht nur dazu, ein besseres Systemverständnis zu erlangen, sondern proaktiv die Umsetzung transformativer Prozesse zu unterstützen. In diesem Sinne, die Bühne gehört ganz Ihnen. Bitte schön.
Ja, einen schönen guten Morgen auch von meiner Seite. Herzlichen Dank für die freundliche Begrüßung. Herzlichen Dank auch für die Einladung, die Gelegenheit, auf dieser wichtigen Konferenz in besonderen Zeiten zu sprechen und über die Bedeutung, glaube ich, von Forschung und Entwicklung ist ja gerade schon gesprochen worden. Und Sie können mir glauben, als Wissenschaftler werde ich das natürlich doppelt oder dreifach unterstreichen, wie wichtig in heutiger Zeit Forschung und Entwicklung ist. Aber gleichermaßen ist natürlich wichtig, das, was erforscht worden ist, auch in die Umsetzung zu bringen. Und da ist, glaube ich, noch einiges zu tun, nicht nur in Österreich, sondern europaweit und global. Was mein Job ist, heute Morgen so ein bisschen sicherlich mit meinem Beitrag einzuführen in das Thema, deswegen habe ich es auch genannt, Strategieoptionen für den Klimaschutz in der Industrie, eine Einführung. Und meine Vorredner und Vorrednerinnen haben es mir relativ einfach gemacht, weil viele der Strategieoptionen, die Sie gleich wiederfinden, schon benannt worden sind. Auch das Programm der Tagung macht es mir relativ einfach, weil fast alles, was ich Ihnen an Strategieoptionen nennen werde, findet sich im Tagungsprogramm wieder. Also insofern nehmen Sie das, was Sie gleich sehen, nächsten ungefähr 20 Minuten, so ein bisschen als Appetizer für dann den Einstieg in die vertiefenden Vorträge heute und morgen. Lassen Sie mich zu Beginn einen Blick auf die Klimaschutzherausforderungen erstmal aus globaler Perspektive werfen. Das werden Sie alle kennen, aber trotzdem, glaube ich, zu Beginn einer solchen Tagung nochmal wichtig, das mit ein paar Zahlen unterlegt zu bekommen. Und Sie sehen hier die sogenannte Hockeystick-Kurve. Sie müssen sich die Kurve so ein bisschen 90 Grad verdreht vorstellen. Dann sieht das eben aus wie ein Hockeyschläger. Und der Hockeyschläger macht im Grunde schon die Problematik deutlich, mit der wir es heute zu tun haben, dass wir nämlich seit Beginn der Industrialisierung ungefähr eine Temperaturerhöhung empirisch nachvollziehen können von 1,1 bis 1,2 Grad Celsius. Und das ist im historischen Vergleich eben etwas, was wir so noch nicht gesehen haben, von der Größenordnung nicht und vor allen Dingen in der Geschwindigkeit, in der sich diese Veränderung vollzieht, haben wir das in den letzten 100.000 oder 100.000 Jahren so nicht gesehen. Und das beschreibt ein Stückchen weit natürlich Problematik Klimawandel, in der wir uns befinden. Und zum Zweiten wissen wir natürlich längst, dass das Ganze anthropogenen Ursprungs ist. Zurückzuführen ist eben auf die Erhöhung der Treibhausgaskonzentration in der Atmosphäre. Insofern tun wir gut daran, eben solche Ziele, wie wir sie gerade auch gehört haben, zu setzen, möglichst schnell runter mit den Treibhausgasemissionen zu gehen. Das heißt, wir müssen konsequent und schnell handeln und das eben nicht nur in einzelnen Ländern, sondern auf der globalen Ebene. Leider muss man sagen, sind wir im Moment noch nicht auf den richtigen Pfad. Das gilt in vielen Ländern, das gilt aber vor allen Dingen auch global. Deswegen habe ich auch diese Grafik nochmal mitgebracht, die Ihnen im Grunde zeigt, wie haben sich denn die globalen Emissionen, die globalen Treibhausgasemissionen, insbesondere auch die energiebedingten Emissionen in den letzten 3, 4 Jahrzehnten entwickelt. Und Sie sehen, das ist raufgegangen. Wir hatten einen Rückgang 2020, im Wesentlichen bedingt durch die Covid-19-Pandemie, aber in 2021 sind die Emissionen weltweit wieder signifikant angestiegen und wir sind heute wieder oberhalb des Niveaus des Jahres 2019, also sind genau in die falsche Richtung unterwegs und das beschreibt ein Stückchen weit den Handlungsdruck. Lassen wir uns einen Blick werfen in den letzten Weltklimabericht des IPCCs, des Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, der relativ genau nochmal deutlich macht, das Ganze, was wir empirisch sehen können, ist tatsächlich im Menschen gemacht. ist zurückzuführen auf den Anstieg der Treibhausgaskonzentration in der Atmosphäre. Der Weltklimabericht macht aber auch deutlich, was zu tun ist, um die Ziele der Vereinten Nationen, also die Paris-Ziele, zu erreichen. Sie erinnern sich alle an die Pariser Klimakonferenz 2015 oder auch an die im letzten Jahr in Glasgow, wo ja nochmal deutlich gemacht worden ist, dass die Weltgemeinschaft anstrebt, eigentlich nicht nur deutlich unterhalb einer 2 Grad Celsius Temperaturbegrenzung zu bleiben, sondern eigentlich das 1,5 Grad Celsius Ziel in den Blick zu nehmen. Das heißt, das, was Sie gerade gesehen haben, nicht über 1,5 Grad Celsius ansteigen zu lassen. Und wenn man das anstrebt, dann übersetzt der Weltklimabericht eben das in die Notwendigkeit, die Treibhausgasemissionen zu reduzieren. Und diese Zahlen will ich Ihnen gerade nochmal nennen, weil auch das im Grunde den Handlungsdruck auf der globalen Ebene nochmal deutlich macht. Das heißt, wir müssen, um dieses 1,5 Grad Celsius Ziel zu erreichen, die globalen Treibhausgasemissionen früh in den 2050er Jahren auf netto Null zurückgeführt haben, global. Nicht nur in Österreich, nicht nur in Deutschland, nicht nur in Europa, sondern auf der globalen Ebene, um das 1,5 Grad Celsius Ziel zu erreichen. Streben wir das 2 Grad Celsius Ziel an, haben wir vielleicht 10, 15 Jahre mehr, aber auch nicht unendlich viel mehr Zeit. Und das macht nochmal deutlich, mit welchem Handlungsdruck wir es zu tun haben. Auf der anderen Seite macht es auch etwas deutlich, was gerade schon anklang. Wir haben es nicht nur mit einer globalen Herausforderung zu tun, sondern die Technologien, die wir heute entwickeln, die wir in den nächsten Jahren entwickeln, werden global gebraucht. Das heißt, wir sprechen auch über einen großen globalen Klimaschutztechnologiemarkt. Und Länder, die da früh dabei sind, diese Technologien zu entwickeln, haben natürlich auch gute Chancen, dann Exportmärkte zu erschließen. Glaube ich, ein weiterer guter Grund, das zu tun, was Sie tun, nämlich Technologien, Strategien zu entwickeln für den Klimaschutz, die eben nicht nur für die Ökologie einen Beitrag leisten, sondern natürlich auch für die Industriepolitik des jeweiligen Landes sehr, sehr wichtig sind. Lassen wir mich im zweiten Teil meines kurzen Beitrags eingehen auf die Treibhausgasemissionen in der Industrie. Und hier geht es ja um Industrie in der heutigen Konferenz. Insofern nochmal wichtig deutlich zu machen, welchen Anteil hat denn die Industrie überhaupt global an den Treibhausgasemissionen und was bestimmt eigentlich die Treibhausgasemissionen direkt oder indirekt in dem Industriesektor. Auch dafür eine Grafik aus dem letzten Weltklimabericht, die zunächst mal unterscheidet zwischen direkten und indirekten Emissionen. Wenn Sie nur kaprizieren auf die direkten Emissionen, also das, was an Produktionsstandorten sozusagen emittiert wird in der Industrie, dann hat der Industriesektor etwa einen Anteil von gut 22% an den globalen Treibhausgasemissionen. Wenn Sie jetzt auch noch das umrechnen, was die Industrie an Fernwärme, an Elektrizität braucht, was ja auch zu Emissionen führt und der Industrie das zurechnen, dann kommt man schon zum Ergebnis, dass die Industrie verantwortlich ist für ungefähr 1/3 der globalen Emissionen. Und das gilt über den Daumen auch für die europäische Ebene, für die deutsche Ebene. Und ich habe die Zahlen für Österreich nicht ganz im Kopf, aber ich nehme an, das wird sich auch nicht sehr stark unterscheiden. Also ungefähr 1/3 der Gesamtemissionen ist dann auf industrielle Produktion zurückzuführen. Und deswegen ist es eben extrem wichtig, sich mit diesem Sektor auseinanderzusetzen. Wo kommen die Emissionen her? Sie kommen natürlich aus sehr, sehr unterschiedlichen Quellen. Diese Grafik zeigt Ihnen zunächst mal, dass die Emissionen auch in der Industrie angestiegen sind. Wieder die globale Ebene, gerade in den letzten 2 Jahrzehnten, seit 2000 nochmal dramatisch angestiegen sind auf der weltweiten Ebene. Diese Grafik zeigt aber auch, es gibt einige Sektoren, die besonders wichtig sind und die sind im Grunde gerade schon genannt worden. Das ist natürlich die Stahlindustrie, das ist die Chemieindustrie, das ist die Zementindustrie, das ist aber, wenn Sie die indirekten Emissionen mitnehmen, natürlich auch die Aluminiumindustrie, die ja sehr, sehr viel Strom braucht, der in vielen Ländern ja noch nicht CO2-neutral ist. Also das sind die großen Emittentenbereiche neben vielen, die eine Rolle spielen. Und insofern macht es natürlich auch Sinn, wenn man sich mit Klimaschutz in der Industrie auseinandersetzt, zu fragen, wie kriegen wir die Emissionen in den unterschiedlichen Bereichen raus. Und der Weltklimarat wäre nicht der Weltklimarat, wenn er nicht nur in der Lage ist, komplizierte Grafiken zu entwickeln, bunte Grafiken zu entwickeln, sondern auch komplizierte Formeln zu entwickeln. Und auch das habe ich Ihnen mal mitgebracht, aber ich verspreche Ihnen, ich werde nicht im Detail auf die Formel eingehen, sondern Sie sehen quasi eine relativ einfache Übersetzung der Formel unten in den Kreisen. Denn was stellt die Formel dar? Sie stellt im Grunde dar, wie die Treibhausgasemissionen sich bestimmen, was die treibenden Faktoren für die Treibhausgasemissionen sind. Und unten in den In den Kreisen ist das mal übersetzt worden, beispielhaft für einen Sektor, in diesem Fall eben für das Wohnen. Und das Wohnen wird natürlich, oder der Bedarf im Wohnen wird natürlich zunächst mal bestimmt durch den Wohnbedarf, also das, was wir alle wollen, ein kuscheliges und gemütliches Zuhause. Und das wird natürlich bestimmt im Wesentlichen durch die Bevölkerungszahl, national wie global. Der nächste entscheidende Faktor, den nennen wir dann Service Product Intensity. Da geht es tatsächlich sehr stark um die Frage, wie viel Quadratmeter brauchen wir denn zum Wohnen? Wie viel Quadratmeter braucht jeder von uns zum Wohnen? Also wie intensiv nehmen wir das Produkt Wohnraum in Anspruch? Der weitere bestimmende Faktor, den nennen wir dann Product Material Efficiency. Wenn man weiß, wie viel Quadratmeter man braucht, stellt sich natürlich die Frage, wie viel Beton braucht man beispielsweise, um diese Quadratmeter Wohnraum auch herzustellen. Wie viel Zement braucht man, um dann diesen Beton herzustellen? Es geht um Materialeffizienz, neben der Energieeffizienz eine wichtige Größe, leider über viele Jahre, Jahrzehnte eher vernachlässigt worden. Circularity, schon angesprochen worden, wenn man Materialbedarf hat, kann man einen Teil davon natürlich aus wiederverwertbaren Materialien herstellen. Man muss nicht ausschließlich auf Primärmaterialien gehen. Circularity, also der Anteil der im Kreis geführten Materialien, auch ein wichtiger bestimmender Faktor. Dann natürlich Energieeffizienz, die Verbesserung der Prozesse spielt eine Rolle. Bleiben wir beim Sektor Zementherstellung, also Bauen, spielt Fuel Switching eine Rolle, dass nicht nur mit fossilen Energieträgern Zement hergestellt wird, sondern auch mit erneuerbaren Energieträgern, vielleicht zukünftig dann auch mit mehr Strom oder mehr Wasserstoff. Und last but not least, wenn die Emissionen einmal entstanden sind, spielt natürlich auch eine Rolle, bekomme ich die Emissionen dann über Carbon Capture und Use Technologien, über Carbon Capture und Storage Technologien dann zumindest so gehandelt, damit sie nicht in die Atmosphäre entlassen werden. Also eine Fülle von Einflussfaktoren, die wir haben im Bereich der Industrie, hier nur mal gespiegelt an einem Sektor. Nehmen wir das nochmal zum Anlass, jetzt wirklich zu fragen, was sind denn jetzt diese Strategieoptionen für den Klimaschutz in der Industrie? Und die eine Antwort, die Sie jetzt schon erahnen können, ist, es gibt nicht die eine Königsstrategie für den Klimaschutz der Industrie, sondern Sie brauchen eine Vielfalt von Optionen. Und die Kunst besteht darin, jetzt nicht nur jede einzelne Option weiterzuentwickeln, und auch das klang heute Morgen schon an, in Systemen zu denken, die Optionen so miteinander zu verbinden, dass am Ende tatsächlich die Netto-Null dann steht. Insofern geht es darum, erneuerbare Energien auszubauen. Es geht darum, die Energieeffizienz zu stärken, unter anderem, indem stärker elektrifiziert wird mit hohen Wirkungsgraden, Produktionsprozesse auf eine klimaneutrale Basis zu stellen, zum Beispiel eben wasserstoffbasierte Stahlerzeugung. Das sind ja Projekte, die in Österreich, in Deutschland vorangebracht werden, europaweit vorangebracht werden. Das erfordert natürlich die Bereitstellung von neuen Infrastrukturen. Wir müssen auch über industrielle Prozesswärme neu nachdenken, wie wir sie klimaneutral realisieren können. Circular Economy habe ich schon angesprochen und zum Schluss natürlich nochmal Carbon Capture and Use, Carbon Capture and Storage, gerade für die unvermeidbaren CO2-Emissionen oder auch, wenn sie treibhausgasneutral werden wollen, das vergisst man ja manchmal, dann gibt es auch Emissionsbereiche aus der Landwirtschaft, aus den sonstigen industriellen Sektoren, wo nicht nur CO2 entsteht, sondern wo andere Treibhausgase entstehen, die man eben auch nicht so ohne weiteres vermeiden kann. Und dafür brauchen wir etwas, was wir negative Emissionen nennen. Und insofern braucht es ein Nachdenken, gerade aus diesem Grund über Carbon Capture and Use, Carbon Capture und Storage. Lassen wir hier in 3, 4 Bereiche etwas detaillierter einsteigen und an diesen Beispielen deutlich machen, mit welchen Herausforderungen wir es zu tun haben. Selbst wenn wir eigentlich wissen, welche Strategieelemente wir nutzen müssen, sind doch eine ganze Reihe von Fragen noch offen, wo dann eben auch Forschung und Entwicklung, Technologieentwicklung, Demonstrationsprojekte eine große Rolle spielen, neben natürlich einer in sich konsistenten Politik, die das Ganze flankieren oder auch initiieren muss. Und lassen wir mich mit dem Wasserstoffbereich anfangen, der ja gerade auch schon mehrfach genannt worden ist. Wasserstoff kann tatsächlich vielseitig zur Industrietransformation beitragen, im Bereich der Stahlindustrie, im Bereich der Chemieindustrie, aber wir stehen in den meisten Ländern noch relativ am Anfang eben des Aufbaus einer Wasserstoffwirtschaft. Immerhin, nicht wie in früheren Jahrzehnten gibt es nur eine Diskussion über Wasserstoff, weil wir hatten ja häufiger schon mal einen Wasserstoff-Hype, angefangen schon in den 1980ern, und jetzt sind wir wirklich dabei, in die Wasserstoffwirtschaft einzusteigen, weil die kritische Masse an Projekten da ist, weil investiert wird in den Aufbau. Trotzdem fehlen noch geeignete Rahmenbedingungen auf europäischer, auf nationaler Ebene, um Produktionskapazitäten aufzubauen, um langfristige Investitionssicherheit zu haben, vor allen Dingen aber auch um Transportinfrastrukturen aufzubauen. Und das erfordert natürlich ein Nachdenken, wo kommt er denn her, der Wasserstoff? Natürlich möglichst viel aus heimischen Quellen, das lehrt uns eben das, was wir gerade an Folgen aus dem Krieg in der Ukraine sehen, aber wir müssen natürlich auch darüber nachdenken, von wem importieren wir Wasserstoff in der Zukunft, wie bauen wir Infrastrukturen auf, und wie bauen wir die Bezugsquellen so auf, dass die Risiken, die damit verbunden sind, möglichst gering sind. Also, wenn Sie so wollen, Fragen über Fragen. Lange vernachlässigt meines Erachtens, und deswegen bin ich auch froh, dass es Teil Ihrer Konferenz heute und morgen ist, die Frage der industriellen Wärmewende, also der Wärme- und Prozessdampfbereitstellung in der Industrie. Auch das gehört unbedingt dazu, wenn es darum geht, die Industrie in Richtung Treibhausgasneutralität zu bringen. Und gerade das ist ein Bereich, wo wir in Gesamtsystemkontexten denken müssen. Denn hier können erneuerbare Energien eingesetzt werden, hier kann Strom eingesetzt werden, der natürlich grün sein muss. Also geht es um Steigerung der Energieeffizienz, das Erschließen von erneuerbaren Wärmequellen, die Abwärmenutzung, also die branchenübergreifende Kooperation, die Elektrifizierung, aber auch eben der Einsatz möglicherweise von Wasserstoff und Biomasse für die Wärmebereitstellung. Die Circular Economy habe ich gerade schon genannt. Also wir müssen den Übergang schaffen von dem, was Sie auf der linken Seite sehen, die heute sehr stark linear geprägten Produktionsstrukturen, zu dem, was Sie rechts sehen, eben das Denken, das Leben, das Arbeiten, das Produzieren in Kreisläufen. Und das erfordert ganz, ganz massive Veränderungen. Denn Sie müssen am Ende des Tages schon ganz früh anfangen, nämlich beim Design der Produkte. Sie müssen sozusagen die Produkte, die Materialien, die Sie einsetzen, auch Circular Economy fähig machen. Und im zweiten Schritt geht es dann um Reuse, Remanufacturing und um Recycling, das mechanische Recycling, ganz genauso wie das chemische Recycling. Das ist der technische Teil der Medaille, wenn Sie so wollen. Auf der anderen Seite können Sie schon erahnen, damit sind ganz große strukturelle Veränderungen verbunden, weil Sie weniger Primärmaterialien herstellen müssen in der Zukunft und weil Sie viel mehr zusätzliche Technologiebereiche und Strukturen brauchen, die in der Lage sind, die Materialien wiederzuverwenden, aufzubereiten oder auch diese Materialien zu designen. Das ist eben auch nicht nur ein Programm für Forschung und Entwicklung, sondern auch viele neue Unternehmen, die sich ansiedeln müssen, die eine Circular Economy dann erst ermöglichen müssen. Und dann last but not least, eben hier als vertiefendes Beispiel, dem Carbon Capture and Use, Carbon Capture and Storage, wo es auch darum geht, nicht nur zu überlegen, in welchen Technologien mache ich das, sondern auch damit ist eine Infrastrukturaufbau natürlich verbunden. Und das sind auch wieder ganz neue Infrastrukturen, weil wir bisher nur ganz, ganz wenige Beispiele haben, wo CO2 über längere Strecken transportiert wird und in geeigneten, langzeitstabilen Lagerstätten dann auch eingelagert wird. Und nochmal, das ist nicht nur etwas, wo wir im industriellen Sektor darüber nachdenken müssen, sondern insgesamt, wenn wir über Treibhausgasneutralität sprechen, werden wir nicht umhinkommen, über diese Technologie zu reden, auch wenn es vielleicht bisher etwas ist, was wir möglichst haben vermeiden wollen. Lassen wir mich kurz vor Schluss nochmal natürlich auf die aktuelle Situation zu sprechen kommen, bevor ich mit 3, 4 vielleicht politischen Botschaften dann meinen Beitrag auch beenden will. Natürlich kommt man in der heutigen Phase nicht drum herum, auch einen Blick auf das zu werfen, was uns eigentlich tagtäglich beschäftigt, nämlich die Energieträgerpreis, aber auch Energieversorgungssicherheitskrise, in der wir drinstecken aufgrund des Angriffskriegs Russland in der Ukraine. Ich muss Ihnen jetzt die Zahlen nicht nennen, um wie viel die Erdgaspreise gestiegen sind, wie viel die Strompreise gestiegen sind, gerade auch hier in Österreich. Das wissen Sie zum Teil besser als ich und sind tagtäglich damit beschäftigt, damit umgehen zu können. Ich will aber auch nochmal deutlich machen, das klang gerade am Anfangsbeitrag schon an, wir sind hier in Europa natürlich in einer besonders riskanten Situation, dass wir im globalen Wettbewerb stehen, natürlich auf andere Regionen international schauen, wo diese Energieträgerpreise eben nicht so exorbitant gestiegen sind und wo im Moment Wettbewerbsvorteile noch bestehen. Und das müssen wir natürlich immer im Blick haben. Und auch hier kann Technologieentwicklung helfen, um uns unabhängiger zu machen von fossilen Energieträgerimporten und damit auch unabhängiger zu machen von solchen Energieträgerpreisanstiegen in der Zukunft. Was wir gerade sehen, ist natürlich, dass insbesondere die Industrie reagiert. Und sie tut das, indem sie versucht, energieeffizienter zu werden. Sie tut das, indem sie versucht, vom Gas auf Öl oder Kohle zu switchen, was einem Klimaschützer natürlich das Herz bricht. Aber in diesen Zeiten geht es nun mal kurzfristig nicht anders. Sie tut es aber leider auch, indem sie Industrieproduktion verlagert, und das sollte natürlich idealerweise vermieden werden. Aber, und das ist ganz wichtig, es gibt immer viele Beispiele in Deutschland, aber auch in Österreich, und man sieht, dass trotz der Krise die Industrie weiter Investitionen tätigt, auch große Investitionen tätigt. Jetzt komme ich nach Deutschland, insofern sehen Sie mir nach, dass ich hier ein deutsches Beispiel mal mitgebracht habe, eine Entscheidung des größten deutschen Stahlerzeugers ThyssenKrupp, eben in dieser Phase Investitionsentscheidungen von mehreren Milliarden Euro zu tätigen für den Umstieg auf eine wasserstoffbasierte Stahlerzeugung. Und das sind, glaube ich, die mutigen Entscheidungen, die wir brauchen, um, wie man so schön auf Neudeutsch sagt, on track zu bleiben, auf dem Klimaschutzpfad, dem Transformationspfad zu bleiben. Und da hilft natürlich auch weitere Technologieentwicklung. 3, 4 resultierende Herausforderungen für die Industrietransformation ganz zum Schluss nochmal. Und auf eine Besonderheit des Sektors ist gerade schon hingewiesen worden. Wir haben es im Industriebereich in vielen Fällen mit einem Sektor zu tun, mit sehr langfristigen Investitionen. Wenn Sie in eine neue Stahlproduktion, ein neues Chemiewerk investieren, dann sind das Investitionen für 20, 30 oder 40 Jahre. Wenn Sie Infrastruktur neu aufbauen, sind das langfristige Investitionen. Das heißt, wir tun gut daran, die jetzige Phase, wo in vielen Bereichen wir an der Schwelle von Erneuerungszyklen stehen, dafür zu nutzen, nicht in alte Technologien, in alte Prozesse zu investieren, sondern eben in klimaverträgliche Prozesse zu investieren. Insofern ist schnelles Handeln erforderlich, und das braucht natürlich mutige Entscheidungen der Politik, der Industrie selber, Unternehmen selber, aber eben auch flankierende Rahmenbedingungen der Politik. Und diese flankierenden Rahmenbedingungen braucht es natürlich auch, weil trotz der gestiegenen Energieträgerpreise, von denen wir hoffen, dass sie nicht auf Dauer in der Höhe sind, wie sie sich jetzt befinden, natürlich viele der Technologien, über die wir reden, dann durchaus mit höheren Kosten verbunden sind, mindestens mit höheren Investitionskosten verbunden sind. Und deswegen braucht es, glaube ich, kluge politische Instrumente, um diese Industrien, die ja meistens im globalen Wettbewerb sind, zu stärken und auch in die Lage zu versetzen, diese Investments zu tätigen. Aber es geht häufig auch darum, die höheren laufenden Kosten abzudecken. Also es geht um CAPEX und OPEX. Und hierfür gibt es natürlich europäische Instrumente. Hierfür gibt es den CBAM-Mechanismus, der derzeit ja intensiv diskutiert wird, aber auch neue Instrumente wie Carbon Contracts for Difference, die helfen können, jetzt auf einer nationalen Ebene nochmal eben Unternehmen in die Lage zu versetzen, diese Zusatzinvestitionen auch tätigen zu können. Es geht aber auch darum, nicht nur dauerhaft über derartige politische Instrumente Industrie in die Lage zu versetzen, in Richtung Klimaverträglichkeit zu gehen. Und es geht natürlich vor allem auch darum, solche Klimaproduktmärkte zunächst mal zu initiieren und sie dann auch auszurollen. Also die Frage, wie kreiert man denn eigentlich eigendynamisch grüne Produktmärkte, ist auch etwas, was ganz oben auf der politischen Agenda sein muss, über eben entsprechende Quotenmaßnahmen zum Beispiel, über freiwillige Vereinbarungen mit der Automobilindustrie, wie das derzeit mit dem einen oder anderen deutschen Automobilhersteller diskutiert wird, über vielleicht bestimmte Vorgaben im Bereich der öffentlichen Beschaffung und vieles andere mehr. Also hier brauchen wir Initialmomente, um diese grünen Produktmärkte auch dann realisieren zu können und damit eigendynamisch wachsende Märkte auch zu kreieren, die dann wiederum Investitionen auch auslösen können. Zum Schluss noch mal ein paar Stichworte. Keine Angst, ich gehe jetzt nicht die ganze Liste durch, sondern 3, 4 Dinge, die mir abschließend noch wichtig sind, zumindest kurz erwähnt zu haben. Wir sind in vielen Bereichen, gerade was Industriesystemtransformation anbelangt, stehen wir vor der typischen Henne- und Ei-Problematik. Typisches Chicken-and-Egg-Problem, wenn man so will. Wir haben deutlich veränderte Wertschöpfungsketten, mit denen wir umgehen müssen. Wir müssen investieren, auch unter unsicheren, komplexen Rahmenbedingungen. Wir müssen eben neue Infrastrukturen aufbauen, egal ob das im Wasserstoffbereich oder im CO2-Bereich ist. Das ist eine große Herausforderung, die natürlich dann auch politisch begleitet werden muss. Wir haben es mit vielen Unsicherheiten zu tun. Und wir haben heute Morgen schon gehört, dass Carbon Leakage natürlich ein Problem ist für Unternehmen, die im globalen Wettbewerb sich befinden. Aber es gibt nicht nur den Carbon Leakage, sondern es gibt auch etwas, was wir Green Leakage nennen, nämlich die Tendenz, dass möglicherweise Industrie auch abwandern könnte in Regionen, wo mehr erneuerbare Energien zur Verfügung stehen, mehr kostengünstige erneuerbare Energien zur Verfügung stehen und insofern natürlich auch die Möglichkeit da ist, kostengünstiger zu produzieren. Das ist durchaus eine Gefahr, die droht, der man aber entgegnen kann, wenn man frühzeitig auf Kooperation setzt, auf internationale Kooperation, setzt auf Arbeitsteilung setzt. Und deswegen bin ich froh, dass sich der Folgevortrag genau mit dieser Thematik beschäftigt und so für eine kleine Steilvorlage für das, was gleich kommt. Wir wissen aber auch, dass, wenn wir jetzt in die Umsetzung gehen, und wir stehen ja in vielen Bereichen noch am Anfang dieser Umsetzung, dass wir natürlich viele neue Herausforderungen kennenlernen werden. Und deswegen spielt Forschung und Entwicklung eine Riesenrolle, weil wir nicht alles, was wir an Antworten brauchen, heute schon haben. Und deswegen seien Sie ermutigt, dran zu bleiben an Forschung und Entwicklung. Mein letztes Stichwort geht wieder zurück auf die Situation, in der wir gerade sind. Wir haben es ja mit einer Situation zu tun, wo wir mehrere Krisen auf einmal bewältigen müssen. Wir stecken noch drin in der Covid-Krise, wir haben den Krieg in der Ukraine und so viele Risiken, die auf einmal kommen, so viele Krisen, die auf einmal kommen, das haben wir bisher eigentlich nie oder zumindest sehr, sehr selten gesehen. Insofern macht es, glaube ich, Sinn, daraus zu lernen, wie wir und darüber nachzudenken, wie wir in der Zukunft unsere Strukturen risikofester aufstellen können, wie wir sie resilienter machen können, wie wir sie weniger verletzlich machen können. Dafür spielt Forschung und Entwicklung natürlich auch eine große Rolle und dafür braucht es Konferenzen wie diese. Und deswegen bin ich froh, dass sie stattfindet und sage nochmal herzlichen Dank für die Einladung zur heutigen Konferenz. Ich wünsche Ihnen 2 sehr inspiring Tage und würde mich freuen, wenn der ein oder andere Impuls auch von dieser Konferenz für die großen Herausforderungen nochmal kommen würde, die ich versucht habe, in der Kürze zu skizzieren. In diesem Sinne, herzlichen Dank für die Aufmerksamkeit.
Vielen herzlichen Dank auch an Sie. Wir werden dann im Anschluss an die dritte Keynote. Okay, also vielleicht eine schnelle Frage ins Publikum. Gibt es eine brennende Frage im Anschluss jetzt an diese erste Keynote-Präsentation? Ich glaube, Sie haben alles schon in Ihrem Vortrag beantwortet. Wunderbar. Ich sage nochmal ganz herzlichen Dank und bitte um einen großen Applaus für Professor Dr. Ingenieur Manfred Fischedick. Ja, und er hat es schon ganz kurz erwähnt, eine Steilvorlage war das jetzt für die zweite Keynote-Präsentation. The second keynote presentation will be held in English again, and it will be about the role of international cooperation to advance industrial decarbonization. Our next speaker visits us from the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO. Please give a big round of applause for Rana Gonheim. Welcome. Rana Gonheim has over 15 years of experience at UNIDO in the design and implementation of projects advancing the use of clean energy technologies in developing countries. Her work focused mostly in the MENA, so Middle East and North Africa region, and Africa. Since June 2018, she serves as the chief of the Energy Systems and Infrastructure Division, where she's responsible for developing the organization's strategy for promoting a carbon-neutral energy infrastructure and the decarbonization of industry. She leads on behalf of UNIDO global initiatives and engagement with global actors such as SE for All, so SE such as Sustainable Energy, and the Clean Energy Ministerial. Rana holds a bachelor degree in environmental science and a master's degree in environmental economics from Imperial College. I hope I got everything right. Rana, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much and good morning. It's really a pleasure actually for a change to join a conference here in Austria, which hosts UNIDO. I attend too many conferences, but not as many in Austria. So thank you for having me. And thanks to Austria for the leading role that you're playing both here as well as internationally. Really living in this country, I can only say how much I enjoy, I get inspiration, as well as I aspire from the work that you do. So what I'm going to speak to you about, I think already Manfred had set the stage very well in terms of technologies, where we are, and also put some questions forward, which I hope I can address as well. So let's get started. In principle, why are we talking about industrial decarbonization? It's really an exciting time, I have to say, because for a while, decarbonization of heavy industry was almost something nobody wanted to speak about. And over the past 3 years, it's really surfaced on the global agenda, on national agendas, because we all know it now, that it is really very important for achieving our climate goals to put these sectors on the right track. And that's because these are sectors that are high emitters, they have high growth potential, and so on and so forth. So, also already it was provided some statistics or figures on why, but basically 5 of these industrial heavy industry, or what we call globally the harder to abate industries, account for 70% of the emissions coming from industry. And if we look at cement and steel and concrete particularly, they actually account for 14 to 16% of the energy-related industry. That is too big of an opportunity to miss and not to put really on the right track. That's actually here what I want to say, why I'm bringing this again, is if we look at these 3 sectors, cement, steel, and concrete, they are very much building material, right? And if we look at the world and what it's building, the world is building the equivalent of a New York City every month for the next 40 years. Imagine how much these materials are really essential for our continuation. And imagine how much construction is being built all around the world, including in Austria. Vienna, I don't recognize anymore. I've been there for 20 years, but it's just incredible the amount of construction that is surfacing everywhere. Now, what are the challenges if we want to look at the challenges globally that are really preventing us from that progress? And I'm not going to go into technology specifics, but just to say, technologies are not really in the state of readiness that we need to roll out these industrial decarbonization plants. Hydrogen, CCUS and all, we don't have yet commercial stage projects that are implemented. Even the projects that are now, being planned in companies like Heidelberg Cement, Holcim, Hybrid, and SSAB Steel in Sweden. I mean, these are all still now really working on setting up their commercial plants. And on the other side, we still need to create and innovate and create new technologies and bring those to the market. And also, in terms of the readiness, industry needs solid solutions. We're talking about steel that's used as the basis for our houses. Something needs to be really solid and robust. So there's a need for sure for more work on getting these technologies towards the readiness they require. On the other side, these plants and commercial plants are very expensive. They require quite a lot of investments. I mean, if we look at those pilots now planned for green hydrogen in the steel sector, I mean, I think it's about $3 billion that are required for putting up this first facility. That is a lot of money. And, the World Economic Forum, for example, estimates that we need 100 near-zero steel plants to be in place before 2030 to make the Paris Agreement. Today, we are at first stages towards putting this commercial stage project. So again, very challenging. I am an optimist. I don't want to turn you down, but basically we'll share also some of the solutions. On the other side, also, these are globally traded commodities, especially the steel. And, there are different ways to decarbonize, and there are different ways to reach emission reductions. For example, in steel, for sure, we need to use scrap metal and bring that into production. But would it be fair to compare a company that is really investing in the state-of-the-art technologies to reach its decarbonization pathway with also a company that maybe will use or depend primarily on this recycled material? At the end of the day, we need to create a pool for all of these technologies, and we need definitions and standards that help us measure in an equivalent way how these products are put forward. On the other side, the data, I mean, we don't know, you know, I mean, now if you want to go buy a refrigerator, we have a label that clearly stipulates what is its efficiency level and so on. But if you want to buy a ton of steel, do we know? I mean, how do we account for that? How do we measure that this data is actually accurate? So we also have a challenge in terms of our data systems. And finally, the policies and the incentives, so setting the right incentives that also Manfred talked about. How do we create those incentives as, I mean, obviously, how do governments, not we as individuals, but also we can pressure governments to move in the right directions. So how do we create the right incentives to put these sectors on the right trajectory? And how do we transfer knowledge? Because wonderful to hear Austria now has a plan for the getting by 2040 towards net zero industries, but how can we help countries like India? How do we help countries like Egypt, Morocco, and others to actually also jump on that train and have these roadmaps at the same time that they actually don't have the same access to the know-how of the technology, which is another challenge. But luckily, we have a lot of international, and I don't envy you, Elvira, jumping into this space. It is very complicated, very crowded as well. I just chose a few of those fora that are globally influencing discourse related to international collaboration. For example, we have the G7 that brings 7 of the largest economies of the world. This year it was hosted by Germany. Next year it'll be by Japan. There's the G20, which brings together 20 also of the largest economies, and every year we have a rotation. This year it's Indonesia. Next year it's India. We have the Climate Change Convention, the Conference of the Parties, now coming up in Egypt. Last year it was in Glasgow. We have the Mission Innovation that Elvira mentioned. We have the Clean Energy Ministerial, which is also 27 countries, so ministries of energy from 27 of the major consumers and producers of energy, along with the European Commission, that also come together and discuss collaboration. So plenty of them, and at the UN, if I add the UN level, the picture is going to get even more crowded. But the positive thing is that we are, putting in place pieces of a puzzle to solve some of these challenges that I mentioned before. For example, in 2019, at the Climate Summit that was hosted by the Secretary General of the UN, Sweden and India launched Lead It, which is the leadership group for the industry transition. It is an initiative hosted by the Stockholm Environment Institute, and they really focus on this issue related to roadmaps. So how to really help countries and challenge also countries to put in place better roadmaps to tackle these sectors. What are the missed opportunities? What are the pathways also for industrial decarbonization? At the same time, the private sector, and at the same conference, the private sector sort of got together. So we have the World Economic Forum, Rocky Mountain Institute, and others got together and launched the Mission Possible partnership. So the Mission Possible partnership is really addressing more this private sector collaboration and giving us a lot of the really great information and statistics globally to help inform our decisions. We have the Mission Innovation Challenge that Elvira just introduced, and so obviously this is really looking more into the research and development and increasing investments. But then at the same time, we have the Industrial Deep Decarbonization Initiative, and this is the one that I'm going to dive a bit into. So this is an initiative that UNIDO has led under the Clean Energy Ministerial. And what we are doing is we are looking at creating demand for low-carbon steel and low-carbon cement and concrete. So this is our mission because it's a market at the end of the day, and you need to work on both supply of the technologies, but at the same time on the demand. And to go back to this challenge of costs, while the costs are very high upfront, when we look at them, or upstream, not upfront, upstream they're quite high. When we look at the costs downstream, they're actually much lower. So on a car, probably you're looking at €100 increment to the car that you already buy for thousands of euros. So you're looking at a 1% really increase in the price. But if you look at it from the cost of investment for the company, it's much higher. If we look at housing, we're looking at an additional cost perhaps of 1,000 to 1,500 euros for a house that costs $500,000 in the EU. So it's really, the cost downstream is quite low. And this is why, we see a burst of initiatives that focus on procurement as a lever for creating markets for these products. Within the SEM IDDI initiative that we lead, we have launched a green public procurement pledge. So what we are really trying to create is markets and a pull mechanism for technologies in steel and cement decarbonization. There is Steel Zero that works more on the construction company sides, and that's something led by the climate groups. And there is the First Movers Coalition, which is actually led also by the World Economic Forum and focuses on more innovative technologies. Now, so what is IDDI? And I mentioned that we are already focusing on the demand stimulation. So we have at the moment 8 countries that are engaged in IDDI. Of course, we would welcome Austria as well to join. So we have, the co-leads are India and the UK. We have many, many partners, including actually Wuppertal. So we have around 100 partners that help us in solving the challenges which are focusing on issues related to data and standards, as well as the green public procurement. So these are our pathways for creating change. The first one is really working on creating an enabling environment for for a thriving global market, and then also working with governments to better understand the power of green public procurement. But at the same time, to leverage political will, we have launched this campaign inviting governments to create commitments for low carbon or green procurement of low carbon steel and cement. So to start with, regarding this building the foundation, I mentioned definitions. So this is something we work on within the working group 1 of the SEM IDDI, working on creating and agreeing on common definitions and standards for products. And why is that important? It's important because we see also a number of standards. So there's ISO, there's the EU taxonomy, there are some standards developed voluntarily by industry, and it's not bad. I mean, it's fine to have different standards as long as we can compare them in the same way, because if procurement actions are going to be following certain standards, again, comparability is quite important. So within this working group, we really focus on creating more harmonized definitions and allowing for the comparability of the different standards that are used. The second pathway is this green public procurement. And why are we looking at green public procurement? I mean, if we look at steel and cement, in most of the countries that we are working with, the government actually has the purchasing power of about 25 to 40%. So actually, they demand 25 to 40% of the cement, concrete, and steel for public construction projects. So for the roads, for the bridges, for the social housing. And so really governments have quite a powerful lever to do that. So what is this pledge that I talked about, and what are we asking, and how does it relate in a way to these different working groups? So there's 4 levels of ambition for this pledge that we are requiring from governments. The first one is to start this requirement to disclose embodied carbon on public construction projects, because at the moment one of the challenges that we see as well is that we don't know how much of these quantities, or it's not really captured in the transparent or the right way, how much of these quantities of these products are used for these projects. What's the cost of that? What's the carbon intensity of that? That's not simply not something that a procurement official within the government would necessarily look at unless we really work on connecting what governments are buying with their climate goals, with all of that. And this is the second tier of the pledge, which is really ensuring that the procurement plans of governments are aligned with net zero goals. And the third level, this is what we have released now in Pittsburgh, is, as I said, we need actually investments to happen today. We need projects to be in place before 2030. So as a lever for this, we are actually asking governments to commit to buy low carbon steel and low carbon cement by 2030. And for that, we are using the definition of the IEA, the International Energy Agency, which they've just launched the report in June this year, defining basically the several bands for intensity of carbon emissions from these products. And every country is going to have to choose its own pathway. All we say is choose the most applicable or highest level of ambition possible, because you need to be the leaders, you need to be the forerunners, and so governments can undertake a consultation to really commit to that. And the fourth level of ambition, which actually we hope stimulates more interest in also the Net Zero Industries initiative, is for governments to commit to procurement of near zero steel and cement for signature projects. So because we know, it's also, it's not even yet in supply, so we have to be as well realistic. And so as long as we can commit to that and bring it in some key signature projects, then I hope we're on the right track. Now, I just wanted to, perhaps before ending, give an outlook a bit to what we see at UNIDO is important to happen at COP27 and beyond. So great to see this progress, great to see this mushrooming of initiatives globally, but we have the responsibility as well to make sure that those investments are not only happening in the north. We have to make sure that some of these investments are also happening in the south, so in India and other countries where really that growth that I spoke about in the beginning is happening the most. We need to really foster more this technology collaboration, which, it was reiterated already in the morning session, and to do that also with the South, because otherwise they will fall back and they will not have that access to technology. And maybe the climate clubs, the German initiative for the climate clubs, could be also quite a good bridge for that. We need to build the right skills. With process changes, with technology changes, with new energy coming up, what are the skills that we need for tomorrow, and how can we also make sure that these skills are translated into developing countries? Because if we build a solar power plant somewhere in Africa, we don't need to fly a technician from Austria or Germany to actually go just maintain that. And this is happening because they are adopting the technologies, but not necessarily understanding the technology behind. So we really have to make sure that's happening. Better data systems, for sure. I would aspire to see that label, something that's ready, that everyone can really see what's behind any activity we do actually, and what's behind these products. And finally, funding. Of course, funding is an issue. Great to see investments. The Infrastructure Act that the US launched is something groundbreaking, puts tons of investments into the sector, the 133 million that you also spoke about. But we need more funding, and we need also that funding to flow to the south. So these are all issues we hope will be addressed at COP27 and beyond, because at the end of the day, we continue with this race to zero. It's something that started, and I think we're gonna be in it for a while. So yeah, thank you so much, and again, happy to be here today.
Thank you very much, Rana Bonheim. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you very much. one quick question into the room. No questions so far, so we'll have a short. One more question is there, so maybe we can have that right away. There's a microphone coming up. Hold on. So just one.
Hi, my name is Anton Fellinger. What about the approach of Japan? So we no longer need to go to zero. We instantly need to go beyond. Please reflect on this.
Yeah, I mean,
Try again, I guess.
yeah. I mean, absolutely. I think that's what I'm saying. We need ambition, but it's ambition alone without concrete actions that take us to that ambition, I think is just a big statement, if I may say. So at the end of the day, if countries have the means to do that, of course, because this is something that affects us all, and you're being a pioneer and groundbreaking if you do that. So I think again, every country will have its own pathway, and what we just call for is the highest level of ambition possible. And what we also call for is not just about ambition; it's also about having concrete actions that justify that ambition and take us towards the net zero or below zero if we look at technologies like CCS and others. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, and there will also be a chance to ask more questions and maybe get together in the lunch break later on. And right now I would like to continue with the next keynote presentation. It's a keynote number 3, and it will tell us about industry and the Green Deal. And our next speaker is Program Officer, Research Infrastructures and Industrialization of Construction at the European Commission, Directorate General Research and Innovation, Unit D2, Advanced Manufacturing Systems and Biotechnologies. Welcome, Dominique Planchon. The stage is yours.
Hello. I have a little addition to your biography because I'm no longer working on construction so much, but on circular economy for apps for circularity. So that's maybe more into the...
I will just turn down the microphone a little bit so we can hear you a little bit better. There we go.
Okay, that is more focused on the topic of the day. So the overview of my presentation, I will speak, of course, about the Green Deal and how Europe wants to be an example on bringing all these technologies towards the climate objectives. And then I will speak about our main instrument for research and innovation, which is Horizon Europe. Next, about energy-intensive industries into our programs. You already heard a lot about them, but there are not only cement, steel, and the other chemical industry is also a big part of it, so we should not ignore that. And later on, our last initiative, very concrete, very local, the hubs for circularity. So the context, you hear about that before, so Ukraine war and fossil fuel scarcity, the drought recently this summer, the climate change pressure, and also the political changes, because the political framework is changing around Europe, and it creates some instability that are also difficult to install the right framework for the innovation policies and the carbon neutral policies. So the numbers, I don't go in detail, energy intensive industries and industry in general is about a quarter of the total energy consumption, so it's a big block. And recently, it's like it became really an issue because the energy prices are booming, And also industry is seen by the citizen as a competitor for the fossil fuels that are on the market. So it will be, if it's so much gas or fossil fuels for industry, there will be less for citizens. They will have to save energy on their comfort, less hot water, less warming in the houses, and that became an issue, also a political issue. So really the decarbonization or the carbon neutrality of industry in general is becoming a key driving force for reaching the climate target, and also is seen with much more visibility from the society side. So our policy push at European level is the Green Deal and the commitment we've made. So how to reach them? The Green Deal is addressing a lot of different policies. Well, you have the transport, construction, building, the renovation wave, a lot of initiative, a lot of green projects everywhere, and also different proposals for transition pathway, for tourism, for example, for a lot of industry, recently for the chemical industry. It's still difficult for the energy-intensive industries. So let's go further. We are made commitment also for delivering for a Fit of 55 package commitment. So that's mainly on energy for going to renewables, to be less dependent on fossil fuels, and to minimize transport with the tool of taxation and trade for carbon, the revision of the ETS directive, and many other things that are included in this commitment. So on the side of research and innovation, the Green Deal objectives are an opportunity. It's really boosting research and innovation. We have to have new technologies for saving energy and to save other resources, because these other resources are consuming energy to be produced. So set up circular economy and deploying this industrial twin transition, which means green transition with digital transition. So the tool is Horizon Europe. The budget is high, and 30% is devoted to climate. So in Horizon Europe, we have 6 pillars. I will talk mainly about the first one, the digital industry and space, which is close to 4. So what are the policies behind? Of course, the Green Deal is overarching all policies at the EU, but it's also the Europe Fit for the Digital Age and the Recovery Plan for Europe, which are these main policies that we build our program on. So the strategies, we have the EU chemical strategy that is boosting innovation for safe and sustainable by design products. We have the new European industrial strategy to be more sustainable, digital, resilient, and still competitive. The digital decade and the space strategy for Europe. The action plans. You have the Zero Pollution Action Plan, so research and innovation for zero pollution from industry and chemical, for air, water, and soil. Raw Material Action Plan for resilient value chains. Circular Economy Action Plan, for R&I for circular industry, sustainable products, and no landfilling, no waste. And recently, the Material 2030 Manifesto, which is new opportunities for advanced material in 9 strategic markets. So the mission innovation, my colleague just speak about that before. So we are involved into that also, into the net zero industries. So this is all about energy intensive industries and deployment, going for first of a kind, and also spreading this experience to the rest of the world. In this part of the mission innovation, the co-lead are Austria and Australia. The other members you see, and it has been signed recently in the Clean Energy Forum. Now, another instrument very important we have in Cluster 4 for industry is this Upper European Partnership Processes for Planet. This is the unique partnership that is cross-sectorial, addressing all process industries. So that's 10 industry sectors: cement, steel, ceramics, chemicals, engineering, mineral and ores, non-ferrous, water, refineries, and pulp and paper. The budget is 2.6 billion euro. It's a co-funded partnership, so 50% comes from industry and 50% from Horizon Europe budget. So process industry, P4 Planet, process industry is very ambitious to reach the Green Deal target, and they have developed a roadmap for that for 2050. So to develop and deploy climate neutral solutions for the process industries, closing the energy and feedstock loops, and achieve global leadership of the process industries. They want to accelerate innovation and unlock public-private investment in that regard too. So the Process for Planet Partnership has great ambitions, and one of the instruments in this roadmap for 2050, it's go for industrial symbiosis. Because behind to go further than the single chain, single industry decarbonization, that's not sufficient to reach the Green Deal goals. So you need to go cross-sectorial and collaborative. Also because the investment needed are very high, you heard that before, and if you go for it in a collaborative way, you share also the investments, and that's a way to facilitate the implementation. So the process industries in that get inspired by Kalundborg. You might have heard about Kalundborg symbiosis. If you don't, please have a look at their website. They're just have a big meeting, a big event for their 50th anniversary. So they start 50 years ago. They have done a long work and long journey, and it's very interesting. They have a lot of publication going around, and it's a very nice example of how to set up efficiently circular economy and staying competitive. So the process industry in their roadmap get inspired by that example, and they create this concept of hubs for circularity. There are nowadays a lot more examples of that kind. You have smart delta resources. You have a few examples in Australia with the mining industry. You have, for example, in Poland, you have the Hribernik cluster with cement industries. You have different examples around Europe, but they're still very isolated. So that's why we want to promote this concept and make it happen for a lot more sites, a lot more regions. So the key word, you have the definition into the screen up, but the key word is really collaboration. So there has been a lot of research in the literature. You've got publication about eco-industrial parks, different things, and it's proven there is a very high potential. But still, we need to make it happen. In Horizon 2020, we funded already 28 industrial symbiosis projects involving 14 different industrial sectors. And we spent for that 168 million euro. There is a report on that. You will find later on in my presentation the reference to. And the project showed that the utilization of resource, it can be waste, energy, water, material, byproducts. There is a lot of different possibilities across organizations, sectors, and value chains, enable breakthrough efficiency and competitiveness improvement at systemic level. So it's a great tool to reach the Green Deal objectives for industry. As I said before, it's the concrete applications for the moment are very isolated and should be spread more. So you see in the green frame upstairs what you can reach with this approach. That's coming from our project. It's not coming from the blue. So this is proven approach. That's the results from the report I spoke about before. So you have the reference in blue at the bottom, and they already set up a kind of way to assess the maturity of the possibility of an industrial symbiosis approach in industry clusters. So that's the scheme you see in the green frame. So the concept from Processes for Planet partnerships from their roadmap is really to go for a self-sustaining economic industrial ecosystem for full-scale industrial urban symbiosis and circular economy, closing energy, resource, and data loops. For Europe, you are a bit more ambition because we want also put in common investments. So that's the reference of Kalundborg in Denmark. If you are interested to dig in a bit more, I will not describe it because this is too small and we spend too much time to that. But please go see their website because it's very well explained and it's very interesting and very inspiring. So going to cluster 4 and our topics, what we are financing. The destination 1 is for climate neutral, circular and digitized production. We basically have two partnerships, two co-funded partnerships into cluster 1, into destination 1, which is made in Europe about manufacturing. And energy efficient and climate neutral industries, which is Processes for Planet I speak about before. We still have a little of construction, but it's mainly addressing digitalization and circularity for buildings in synergies with Bauhaus and Build for People, which is another partnership, but it's under cluster 5. So in Destination 2, you find all the resilience topics about materials. So it's about raw materials, about safe and sustainable by design materials, implementing strategic research and innovation plan for chemicals and materials, about toolboxes for that, and also strategic innovation market driven by advanced materials. Now I will focus on this new initiative on hubs for circularity. So what's the plan here? We want to demonstrate lighthouse plants really at near commercial size, because of course we are research and innovation, we cannot go for a full commercial size of industrial symbiosis and urban industrial symbiosis. So we want to achieve, using that tool, a step change in circular utilization of resources and also to go for carbon neutral. This is really within a specific representative geographical area, so it's really local to get global impact. So there will be specific funding strategies. We will include all stakeholders, so that means industry and SMEs, but also local authorities, educational institutions, and civil society, because without acceptance of the civil society, it will not work. So the common target will be to collectively achieve and demonstrate at scale a leap towards circularity and carbon neutrality, and that concerns the use of all resources, so it's feedstock, energy, and water, and investment, and staying profitable. So it's also a great tool to accelerate the green industrial transition. So this is a schematic of what could be a hub for circularity. So it could involve a city, the industry that is linked to the proximity of this city, and it will interact with the local in the same region, the local industry. So that will be for recycling and reusing waste, byproducts, materials. Can be also for energy, heat, electricity, fossil fuel, whatever, and water. So we look here to accelerate the green industrial transition. We look to also innovative approach to bring together companies from different business sectors with the aim to improving cross-industry resource efficiency. So it's not target for one single industry, it's really a collaborative target, which is completely new. And of course, initiate a change in prosperity for regions and cities, rethinking completely the interaction with businesses. Okay, we plan to seed 50 lighthouse examples by 2030. I'm speeding up. So you can look on my slides. I suppose they will be available for everybody. So that's what we funded in 2020 and 21. Not yet industrial hubs for circularity, but industrial symbiosis and urban industrial symbiosis. And then you have the next plan for 23-24. And we will continue with the hubs for circularity to reach this target. We have the 50 hubs. So we have launched now very recently, and yesterday I was in this presentation of EU region and cities to launch the community of practice for the hubs for circularity. So this community of practice will be really the backbone of the initiative. So I recommend to you to connect and partner with them to be involved on all their activities. You can see the detail here, and I'll not go further because I'm at the end. So please go for it, and you will have, we'll skip that one, you have the contact here. So this is our website, and you will find on our website the website of the community of practice, and here you have the email. You can connect if you're interested and you want to know more about it. There is also the video of the session of yesterday that will be available soon on the YouTube, so please, there is much more to learn about that. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Merci bien. Dominique Planchon, und auch an dieser Stelle natürlich noch der Blick ins Publikum. Are there any questions from the audience? All right, so once again, merci bien, thank you very much. Dominique Planchon. And as I already mentioned in the beginning, I told you there will be numerous possibilities for networking, and the big one is coming up right now. It's also called lunch break. So we will open up the doors on this side, so it's right next door. You don't have to go too far. You can also enter the lunch area from the hall outside, just to avoid any kind of traffic jam in here. We have enough food for everyone, so there's no need to rush. And I'll see you back here at 1:15 for the NEFI's Levers of Action for Climate Neutrality. Very much looking forward to that. Until then, enjoy your meal. Thank you very much. So welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the lunch break. Up next on our conference program, an impulse lecture, and it will be about NEFI's Levers of Action for Climate Neutrality. There will be a chance to ask questions later on, but first of all, I would like to welcome the speakers. First of all, Research Associate Chair of Energy Network Technology von der Montanuniversität Leoben, Peter Nagovnak. Welcome. And Senior Expert Advisor, Center for Energy at AIT, Austrian Institute of Technology. Please welcome Christian Schützenhöfer. Gentlemen, the stage is yours.
Yeah, good afternoon. My colleague Christian Schützenhofer and I, Peter Nagovnak, we welcome you to our talk on NEFI's Levers of Action for Climate Neutrality. We would like to give you a quick overview into the various actions that we do in NEFI Lab. Wolfgang Hribernik, our cluster coordinator for NEFI, has already mentioned it in the morning. NEFI Lab is really an integral operative part of NEFI. And as has been mentioned before, NEFI supports the industrial decarbonization in various of ways. So in one way, we have decarbonization of the industrial energy system based on different technologies. We try to get added value in Austria through these technologies, so as it's been mentioned before as well in the morning. And then also, of course, decarbonization has to be aligned with this securing the economic location of Austria. And we have, at NEFI Lab, we have different levers that we would like to talk to you about.
Good afternoon from my side. Yes, it's 4 levers. We categorize the actions in. There is CO2 neutral gases and biomass, with all the hydrogen topics, of course. There is the electrification and my most of all loved topic, energy efficiency. and carbon capture, which is getting more and more important as we've heard today in the morning, and the circular economy, integrating all the sectors. And by those 4 levers, we call them, we categorize all the actions, all the measures. We have the symbols, so it should assist you a bit in assessing what the 4 projects we will lead you into are doing, and the whole industry is about, hopefully, to enact. What are we going to show you? As I said, 4 highlights of NEFI projects, just to demonstrate how this all blends together, the projects themselves, and how it translates into the results, the aggregate emissions and the energy demands. And this we will present you by 2 scenario results that we've calculated, the pathway of industry and zero emission. More on that a little later, after 2 examples.
So let's start off with the iron and steel industry. Christian already mentioned it. And we've also heard it in the morning, there's the different levers have to interact together. There's not one solution that fits into a single category, but they have to, our levers have to work together. A perfect example for this is oxy-steel, where we've replaced gas burners by oxy-fuel burners, so burning gas with pure oxygen. And the great thing about this project was that we've really shown, together with the industrial partners here, what efficiency gains are possible from this measure. Namely, it's approximately 10% of the yearly gas consumption of a small city like Leoben, where I'm from, can be saved at this industrial plant at Breitenfeld, where we've implemented this. Another example, very interesting also in the hard-to-abate sectors, namely in the non-metallic minerals, carbon capture, and also connecting industrial sectors, not only capture but also electrocatalytic conversion of CO2 at the cement plant. So it really brings together on one side the non-metallic minerals, but on the other side it also already takes into account what has to be done with the captured CO2 afterwards, and it connects non-metallic minerals with the chemical and petrochemical industry to produce hydrocarbons from the captured CO2.
Yeah, one more really nice demonstrative example is DSM Opt. DSM stands for Demand Side Management Optimization. It's, like I introduced, it's electrification and energy efficiency. That is all about. It's a scheduling system for facilities in industrial plants to incorporate the, as you will see later, massive amounts of additional renewable electricity generation better into the grids and use them more in a way how they are generated, and adapt also the industry. That is demand side management. In this project, we will hear later about those projects, all that one. The production processes, the local storages are simulated, integrated, and can be used to accommodate those supply changes in supply. And in total, it enhances the grid stability. Of course, we do not use the term blackout here. So grid stability enhancement with all those renewables is really important, and the industry has shown to be a part in that. Second project is LEAP. It's about a heat pump. I forgot what the acronym stands for. Heat pumps are really important. They bring a massive 2 to 4 times energy efficiency increase, harnessing either waste heat or ambient heat, Umgebungswärme, to reuse in the processes, Thermal processes in industry are a big topic. Currently, a lot of that heat is lost. It can be harnessed, it can be reused, and it is a fuel switch, if you want, to electricity. You use less gas, less fossil fuels, replace it with a fraction of the energy demand with electricity, which is renewable. So it's a big lever, this technology. And this one is about high temperature heat pumps that's even capable of producing steam up to 150, 160 degrees. And it has been demonstrated already in 3 industry plants across Austria to really work. I've heard one of them has just ordered a couple of more. Then that was the examples. All those example projects, they were just 4. Of course, we have many more. They blend into what we are going to present you today. The Austrian industry aggregate energy demand, carbon emissions. With those 4 levers, we were working in 2 models, and we will just have 2 quick slides about the methodology, what we did, and then present you with some sector results. So we were calculating this decarbonization path in 3 scenarios. One is business as usual. Yes, just extrapolating current trends to have something to relate to. The second one, the middle one, the dashed line, is really interesting. We've been asking the industry, what would you do? Right now, current policies, what are your plans? We did a lot of interviews, especially with energy-intense industry, and we extrapolated that, and we came up with a pathway all to 2050. It looks better than that, actually, you will see. The third one is a backcasting approach, we call it. So it's normative. We say 2050, we want to be carbon neutral, and what on top of the industry is already planning to do needs to be done. Some other technologies, we will come to that, will be employed, we think. The gap is not as large as it's depicted in the symbol here. We're already on a way. More needs to be done. And how much? Wait, I will show you.
Thank you. Let's take a couple of examples. As I've started off before with iron and steel, let's do it again. What you see here is on the right side is a figure of our results for the pathway of industry scenario. So as you can see, for the status quo here, we have, of course, for the reduction of iron ore in the blast furnace, a lot of coal and coke that needs to be put in, and we have to, and in cooperation with the industry partners, we have devised a technology-based pathway that they, within their scope of planning until 2030 and beyond, deem possible. And so here we see, based on their assumption on technology availability, it's the blast furnace, blast oxygen furnace route is replaced by CH4-based direct reduction. So starting in the year 2030, here, the share of CH4 goes up as it replaces coal and coke for the reduction of the iron ore in primary metallurgy. Until by 2050, which was the end of our of the timeline that we looked at, we have CH4-based direct reduction with a share of hydrogen as well that helps the direct reduction process. The primary metallurgy is the most important part of this iron and steel sector, but of course we've also implemented efficiency gains, for example, in the secondary metallurgy, as we've looked at previously in the oxy-steel example. What else do we see in this diagram, as it's important for the other diagrams that we look at in our results? Here we have the line that shows the calculated CO2 emissions. One time we've looked at it, first of all, we have, when we electrify, we have said that it's important to also transparently show that Austria is not an island, that if Austrian industry decarbonizes, we need to get that electricity from somewhere, so we have assumed a European greenhouse gas intensity for the electric sector. And that also applies then to electrolysis, so upstream processes that we need for the hydrogen supply. That is also incorporated in the greenhouse gas emission lines. So therefore, we have the light blue line, which is a little higher, which shows a little more GHG emissions than the purple line, because due to the electrolysis, due to the electricity for the electrolysis, we have a little bit more GHG emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. So now that we've looked at the pathway of industry, how it's been devised with industry representatives, let's look at what we came up for in our backcasting approach. The scenario zero emission is driven by hydrogen direct reduction instead of CH4 direct reduction. And what's most interesting about this one here is that, of course, the gap in the two CO2 emission graphs also gets larger because we have more electrolysis that needs to be done. And the electrolysis losses, you can see them here in this shaded area. So we've tried to make sure that also the upstream processes in providing the hydrogen is adequately and transparently shown, so that it's clear that it's not only the transformation of the iron and steel sector has to not only happen in technologies within at the steel plant, but also in upstream processes. And as we've seen from other projects also outside of NEFI, this is exactly what the industry is doing. They also take care of where this hydrogen might come from. Another sector that we have brought with us for you today is the non-metallic minerals sector, another hard to abate sector because of the geogenous emissions that are really not to be avoided. So, and the industry representatives in this case saw by large part the amine scrubbing as a readily available technology for carbon capture in this case. It's worth mentioning here that we have, within the scope of our project so far, we have only looked at the carbon capture itself in the non-metallic minerals sector, and then in, for example, the chemical sector, we have looked at using CO2, but we have not combined it yet, as we have tried to maintain the sectoral distribution. The amine scrubbing needs a lot of heat, and that you can see here by the required additional energy that is provided through heat pumps at approximately 130 degrees. So it is possible to be done via heat pumps. In the zero emission scenario, we make use of the oxyfuel technology in a way to get higher shares of carbon or CO2 captured in our flue gas. So in this case, the electricity demand does rise, but not as much, as the air separation unit does need energy or electricity. But on the other hand, it's not quite as energy intensive as the already readily available amine scrubbing. Another very energy intensive sector in Austria, in absolute numbers, the second with the second highest energy demand behind iron and steel is the pulp and paper industry. Here, industry representatives in the pathway of industry scenario see that they will extend their current supply routes of energy, so they will set even more focus on biomass instead of, for example, fossil CH4. But on the other hand, they will exactly keep the CHP plant park as the portfolio as they have it now, so there's no structural changes within the industry. That's very different when we compare it to the backcasted zero emission scenario, as here we have tried to electrify the lower temperature levels as much as possible. So CHP plants only remain for the biogenic residues, for example, black liquor, but on the other parts, there might be a couple of CHPs that will not be needed anymore, as their heat provision is then electrified, which is good for the emission intensity of the sector. And what we also see here, we do have a production growth or an economic growth modeled in this, but because we have efficiency gains through the applied technologies, we actually can decrease the total energy demand a little bit.
Of course, there's also non-energy intensive sectors. One very important one in Austria, especially Styria, also Upper Austria, is machinery. You can see here a rise in total energy demand as well, which is not only from the, or it is, yes, which is several compounds. One is we did not change the products or the industry produces, so there is still, of course, some growth. It is not compensated by energy efficiency gains, unfortunately, because of several factors. More on that later, but you can see that nevertheless, carbon emissions are pretty much in line coming down, not to zero, as Peter already said. We did assume some footprint of the carbon of the electricity until the end, but what is also already visible here, and even later in the aggregate, you can see there's a lot more electricity demand because heat demand goes down, even in absolute numbers. So a lot of electrification, and therefore there's a, what do you call it in English? It's diverging. So although the energy demand rises, the emissions go down. In the pathway of industry scenario, the biggest lever here is heat pumps, as I said. And when we looked at what is additionally necessary, you see the difference. If I go back and you look at the line, at the CO2 line, there's hardly any difference in the resulting CO2 emissions, because at the end, from 2040 on here, you see only a very small amount of gas. That gas is green already, so most of the emissions come still then from the electricity. The energy demand is just rising a little less because of the energy efficiency. We think there's more room for improvement. Nevertheless, it's rising. So, sorry, that was an exemplary case for the non-energy intensive one. We come to a really energy intense one. This one is not final energy. You can see the top bar, the brown one. That's the main ingredient. It's called naphtha for plastics. It's a big non-renewable input. It's a material input. In our models, we sought to decarbonize that as well, and this is it can be a sink. Peter already mentioned it. There is industries where emissions can very difficultly be abated, for example, cement production. So there is, after some carbon capture and scrubbing, some carbon left. Currently in Austria, it's not permitted to store it in geological sites. So we worked out a way where, on balance, we did not work out how to transport it, but on balance, the carbon that is captured at the cement production could be used partly, not fully, for chemical industry. And this substitutes the naphtha here, also natural gas. Why is the energy demand still rising, or actually nearly doubling in the chemical sector? As I said, not all the resources can be covered by, the green one is bio, so by biomass, or the captured CO2. Captured CO2 actually is not an energy source, right? So we need a lot of hydrogen, as you can see here. The gray bar is the hydrogen. The dashed one is conversion losses. So building those chemical feedstocks artificially demands a lot of energy. It's more efficient if you do it with biomass. However, we assume there is not so much biomass domestically available. So parts, and in the Poist scenario, a bit more. In the SEM, it's 50-50, are derived from biomass. The rest is by synthetically producing the ingredients. And this is, yeah, it's an opportunity because it's 4 million tons that need to be somehow utilized or stored. On the other hand, this needs a lot of energy. And the chemical sector is really one that influences the whole industry sector. In the zero emission scenario, it's a little bit better in terms of total energy demand. Sorry. Worse. Worse. Because there is even more hydrogen. And we changed the olefins, so the plastics again. There is even more methanol. Of course, this could be imported from abroad. This is a domestic approach, so a demand-driven approach. We did not talk about where the energy and the feedstocks come from. We could, of course, also import the methanol from somewhere else. Here, if we produce it from hydrogen with captured carbon, in this case more, there's even more energy demand. Electricity demand increases a lot, but it's really dwarfed by the hydrogen demand if you measure the hydrogen in energy terms. Still, it's the same 4 million tons of carbon dioxide that could be absorbed. A warning though here, of course, if it's absorbed in the plastics, at some point in time that plastics go somewhere, so there is no end of life balancing here. In the industry sector, those 4 million tons are just absorbed. Of course, they could be emitted with an end-of-life treatment, i.e. incineration, in the energy sector. So one really needs to take care of the balancing here. And with that, we go to the results, to the aggregate results.
What does it all add up to? We've shown you a couple of examples. Really what we see, and Christian already announced it, there is, and we've also heard it in the morning already, that the industry is already actively pushing towards climate neutrality. This is what our scenarios actually also indicate. We see few differences between the pathway of industry scenario that we've developed in close cooperation with industrial stakeholders and the zero emission scenario, which was a backcasting approach based on scientific literature. But what we also see, and we can see this from the various energy carriers here, and also from the examples, there's no silver bullet for it. We've talked in the morning already about it. The 4 levers that we have identified, Professor Hribernik also mentioned a similar approach, that there is different fields of action that have all their need and their necessity to be used. We need CO2 neutral gases, especially in the areas for high temperature applications, and especially also where currently there's still fossil feedstock used, so coal and coke for reduction, or naphtha in the chemical or petrochemical industry. There will still be, as long as we build and as long as our economies grow, there will be geogenous emissions from the non-metallic minerals sector. These are extremely hard to abate. They cannot be avoided by a fuel switch, so carbon capture solutions are necessary here, but they are not, carbon capture alone is not enough, of course. So as we've seen, there also already with circular economy in mind, as we've heard in the morning, it will be necessary to also do something with these CO2 emissions. Then we have the option of electrification. in lower temperature levels, and for example, by heat pumps, that doesn't only help us with the GHG emissions, but also with the amount of energy that is needed. And then what we also see, but in our research overall on this topic, but have not quite as much looked into yet in these scenarios, but further work is coming based on this, is that circular economy is an extremely important lever that can reduce the energy demand overall. So here we see the results for the pathway of industry, which is in our methodology, we achieve almost already zero GHG emissions by 2050, and especially also thanks to the chemical industry as a sink. And then for the zero emissions scenario, we get even below the zero emission line if the electrolysis is possibly for hydrogen is not using the European mix that we have looked at, but it may be imported from somewhere where it's completely carbon neutral production. What do we need for this transformation that we've shown in these scenarios? And I think this is what the conference is all about. We need further pilot plans, existing prototypes as we've developed already in NEFI and are still developing. We need to scale up. Miss Spyra already said it in the morning as well. Everything has to happen at the same time, more or less. So we're doing pilot plans, we're doing scale up, we're doing exploitation at the same time. Development of infrastructure. So as probably all of you have noticed, we have very high demands of hydrogen here, also electricity, and the grids have to be developed in accordance with these levers of decarbonization. And then, of course, it's one thing to implement the solution at a small scale at the company, but it's another to really integrate it in the overall energy system. And that is something that we are also at our chair looking very deeply into, to try to integrate the industrial energy system into the overall Austrian energy system. Christian.
Thank you, Peter. So there's good news. First of all, there's 7 new NEFI projects that are just about to start, I've heard. So there's more bottom-up potentials being worked out. What are the key takeaways from what we've learned from those modeling of the Austrian industry? I had cheap here. It didn't sound good, but we just need a lot of electricity, a lot of renewable electricity by itself, not just for the hydrogen, but by itself. And the better the price, the quicker the rollout. But it is, in many cases, already a business case in itself to electrify, because it enhances product quality, it simplifies processes, so there's a lot of chances from an entrepreneurial perspective as well. We don't just do it for the sake of decarbonizing, although this is really important, but there's business opportunities with enough electricity. And that better process control really projects to the goals of NEFI, because ensuring Austria as a good business environment needs new ideas. We need to develop our processes. We need to get better. And we have learned that the electrification and energy efficiency gains really are a means to that. What is necessary, therefore? We've heard it's a bit of a Stehsatz in German. We need R&D. Yes, of course, we need R&D. So many technologies we've seen are on a very high technological readiness level. They are ready on the lab scale. They're good pilot plans. What really is necessary is implementing them in the processes. Sometimes we scientists ignore that a bit, that it's really a lot of work to go the final meters. And that is what we've learned. There's so many technologies ready. We don't really have the time to fundamentally develop new ones. There is enough technologies, those heat pumps, everything we've seen so far and we will see, are great opportunities. The rollout, the implementation needs to start and be speed up. As we've heard, the fundings are coming in, and let's try together to really get going even better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I would like to take the chance and give the audience the opportunity to maybe ask a question or two or three. Are there any questions from the audience? Just go ahead, raise your hand, and we will provide a microphone right over there.
Dankeschön, Anton Fellinger. How would you rate the chance of this being feasible? So did you look into the supply side of bioenergy? Did you look in the, I don't know, potential to have coefficients for technologies progress that might optimize something? Stuff like this, thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. So we have devised demand-side scenarios, but as I've mentioned, especially in the pathway of industry scenario, but also going back and forth on our development of the other two scenarios, so business as usual, but especially in the zero emission, we have worked closely with industry representatives. We've done 40 to 50 interviews with different companies, large players in their respective sectors. So we've developed it based on the technologies that are needed in order to reach our decarbonization goals on the one hand in the zero emission scenario, but on the other hand, industry representatives have also brought in their idea of what might be available, what in energy carriers might be available, and then combined that with the technologies that they expect to be ready. And that is also regarding the second part of your question. So we do have, of course, looked at the technology readiness level and how it develops over the years and implemented that in our rollout of the technologies.
In case you want to add something, there's a hand microphone right there as well. Any more questions over there?
Ich habe eine Frage, ich stelle sie am besten in Deutsch. Welchen Energiebedarf, jetzt Strom, haben Sie jetzt für 2040 prognostiziert aufgrund Ihrer Forschungen?
Can we maybe see the slide on screen again? There we go.
So the question was how much electricity demand was projected for the year 2040 or 50, sorry, I forgot. So we have both here. Pure electricity is the blue bar here. So you can see it's pure electricity alone is roughly 30 to 35 terawatt hours for the industry. To put it in comparison, Austrian demand currently is 70 terawatt hours. Current industry's electricity demand is about half that. So it's a doubling. We did not talk about how that hydrogen comes from. If you assume, no matter where it is produced, that it's not produced from fossils like we do it right now, but you produce it renewable, the best chances we know right now is electricity. So you can add the gray bar plus the shaded one because that's the losses, the electrolysis losses. So it roughly adds up. You subtract the yellow bar here, so it roughly adds up to 120 terawatt hours. Compared to currently 15 is six-fold increase. Again, compared to Austria's current 70 terawatt hours total electricity demand, it's enormous.
So we do have time for one quick last question. I think there was one right over there. Microphone is coming up.
Really? Where can I switch to? Now it's switched on. Relating to the first question, I didn't really get the answer. I think you were talking about technological feasibility, but what about economical feasibility? Did you also look onto these factors? So will we be able to sell, to compete with these products on the global market? Any data about that?
We have the way that our methodology worked was that we, based on the economic development assumptions as provided by WIFO, for example, but also for Europe, we have set a production output for the future, and that is our baseline basically in devising the scenarios. So there is no look after that. So because we've really assumed that the products will stay the same and that the product placement stays the same. So we need the same process. We need the same products that are made in Austria. And according to the economic development, which we've based on other sources, then what technologies do we need in order to decarbonize?
Okay, so short speaking, no.
Yes,
we don't have any answer if we can compete. Okay. Anyone who could answer this question?
Maybe let me add something on the supply side. So on the technologies we would switch to, for example, the heat pumps. So we did not calculate costs. So it is a no, but implicitly, of course, in the industry interviews, industry told us what they are planning to implement, and we think they thought about that. And second, also when we chose the technologies, we differentiated which technologies have which technological readiness level and which costs. So implicitly, we took care of the most economic technologies to be implemented, but we did not calculate the explicit costs.
Yes, of course.
Just one thing that I was just made aware of that I think is important also in understanding our scenarios. Regarding the gas that we've modeled here. So first of all, what we see is that based on if we look at CO2 certificates and on the other hand electrolysis cost down effects, there will be at some point a break-even point between 2035, 2045, where hydrogen just gets cheaper than burning fossil fuels. But on the other hand, what is most important is that Austria will not be able to provide all of this hydrogen by itself. Most likely Europe will not be able to provide all of this by itself. So there will have to be import routes that have to be developed. And as we see currently with the fossil gas prices or with gas prices overall, this has to happen rather sooner than later.
Thank you very much for this moment. I guess there's still a lot to be discussed, maybe in the next break or at the latest tonight at the conference dinner. Thank you very much, Peter Nagovnak and Christian Schützenhöfer.